This is what happens if you have a merchant cash advance default, and even worse, a default with a judgment in place, and how to get rid of it potentially. Hi, this is Michael with Viral Funding Solutions. I'm a business loan broker expert who helps out a lot of businesses get the right type of financing under the right type of vehicle, strategic partnership, and roadmap so they can finally power forward with 110% confidence and certainty of knowing their pre-approval, their odds of going through that application, not only getting approved through underwriting, but then getting an offer or multiple offers and having the right expectations and much more. So welcome in, guys. Let me know, where are you tuning in from? Please give me a wave. Let me know what part of the world you are watching from. How's your day, afternoon, what part of the world again? Anything fun planned out later on? So let me get right into things. The reason I'm discussing this subject today isn't apparent, but it's been consistent over the last couple of months, more than it's ever been any other time of the year, as we are now in the new year, in January, as this video is being made. And I will probably put it on YouTube, so you can check in the description, or if you're here on TikTok, look in the bio for all information, or if it's streaming on Instagram or somewhere else, multi-channel, make sure to check in those bios for more resources. Now, I've had a lot of people who come to me who are looking for financing. They're looking for a term loan. They're looking for a line of credit. They're looking maybe for a merchant cash advance, or they don't want a merchant cash advance. Maybe they don't know what that is. Or, hey, that's what I need to get because I know that's the one. Whatever financing that is, maybe it's even equipment financing. Maybe you're now trying to do a government loan, a government-backed loan, SBA, bank involved, non-banking lender. And you're wondering, hey, what happens? I've heard about these defaults, or Michael, I've defaulted, or you probably don't even know you defaulted. That's how gone out the radar you are. So what a default is, let's cover that first. If you default on somebody giving you an advance, we're not going to call it a loan, technically it's not. Give you an advance against your future receivables, a merchant cash advance, a hybrid cash advance. There's traditional merchant cash advances, which are based on your credit card statements, credit card receipts. And then secondly, there are merchant cash advances that are based on that and all the revenue encompassing it. So it's more of a hybrid. So it's kind of more of the same, a little bit different. Easeability, flexibility, I'd say, with the hybrid advance. That's the one I tend to go with more. It's much better. I see it in the market as well. But just know that it's an advance you're getting and against your future receivables, and you're paying back maybe a fixed percentage per day or per week. Sometimes it's monthly, not always. It's usually daily or weekly. Maybe it fluctuates with your sales. You have higher sales, more gets taken out one day, lesser sales one day, less gets taken out. But a lot of the times it can be a fixed percentage and or variable, and it's also fixed daily or weekly a majority of the time. Now, if you have a default, that just means you did not make one payment, you missed one, or they pardoned that. They said, okay, it's okay, but the next one, don't miss it. Or you missed multiple payments. And then that's when you are at case of a default, meaning you cannot pay your debt. You have debt obligations to that creditor, that debt collector, that lender, that credit card organization. So if you don't make your payments, you're defaulted. And so what does that mean? That means that if you try to come again and get business funding underneath the same industry or anywhere else, and that's the only thing you're qualified for, the majority of the time, even if you're a B, A, C, D, E tier lender, you could have the best revenue, the best time in business, multiple businesses, 6 figures a month, etc. You have defaulted. You can't get away from that. Even if you somehow removed it, it still lingers on your credit. And I'll get into the credit reports in a moment for those of you wondering if it shows there or not. But this means that, and there's another level with the judgment we're going to get into. So if you've defaulted and you try to come back and get funding, guess what will happen? You're going to get your file underwritten, but it's going to get declined like that. There will be a few lenders, you'll probably get the D and E, C to E tier lenders, looking at your file and considering it and being like more of a, hey, it's okay, we're going to help you. But in A tier, B tier, those type of lenders, they're not going to look at your file the majority of the time. Sometimes, but they don't usually do that. And so if you defaulted, your underwriting is going to go through and it's going to say, nope, sorry. So it's better to be upfront. A lot of the times I'll ask if you've defaulted. Sometimes I just don't. It's kind of goes without being said. Maybe somebody didn't already educate you that if you default, you can't get funding anymore. So it's important that you speak with a broker, in myself, Maybe you find some debt consolidation, some relief programs. Maybe you hire on an attorney. You have a lawyer. That's what I would recommend, especially if you have a judgment in place. But what happens is once you default, underwriting will sniff that out. And it's much harder to see a default with a judgment in place because the credit reports have then since changed. So they don't always have it reporting on the credit bureaus. There's a systematic way that the lender is able to see that with the bankruptcy, perhaps with charge-offs or other signals. And they have communication with those lenders that show, hey, you've defaulted. So they have their own systematic way of looking at that since things have been removed from credit reports. And you can't always get that, especially with the default and a judgment in place. So there will be one or two lenders, usually one. Like I had recently, one person. Here's an example. This individual had defaulted in the past, and I'm not going to say the name of the company, and they're a legitimate lender, by the way, and I'm associated with them. Anytime you guys have a comment, please put it in there, and I'll come to you guys. So they defaulted, and this is just one example. There are multiple. They defaulted. Now, we didn't look at their file anymore. I have an underwriter. I have my team then come back to me and go, hey, Michael, this lender is willing to come in. Or, hey, Michael, the lender themselves reaches out to me because they can do that. Hey, I'm willing to come in and help them out. Okay, and then they gave me the parameters on what that would entail. They're not going to give you $100,000, even if you're doing $100,000 a month and it's revenue based. And if you have another position already in place, so that's another part I'm going to jump into in a second. They're going to say, hey, we see that you're doing $30,000. We probably could have got you like $40,000 or $50,000 or so on a regular basis, but you've defaulted, and it shows us in your credit history that you're not being able to make those debt obligations, or you have rent and you're off the roof right now. And so in a default, they're going to say, hey, we got to start you off with less. They're probably going to give you like less than $10,000 a lot of the time, less than $15,000. So in one specific situation, we gave them $7,000. Now it's up to them to decide if it's worth for them. The benefit exceeds the repayment. So without another position already in place, can you take that $7,000 to $10,000 and then turn it into $15,000 to $20,000? Or is it going to help you with overhead and expenses and still keep you cash flow positive, and you won't default on this? You're going to give us a set day amount of payment. We're going to have you pay back about $105, $110 a day over 4.5 or 5.5 months, not even 6 months in a lot of cases. They're going to want you to prove themselves to that lender, build that relationship up again. And that's your foot in the door. And if you say no to that, these things don't come around. It's like a shooting star, guys, especially with my network of people that I know and my lenders. You don't always get that option. There will be people trying to throw money in your face telling you, hey, we can try to get you $30,000, $40,000. I have an offer here, $50,000. I'm going to get you a line of credit of $200,000, but that's not the truth. You can't get that. Not only because maybe you have a position or multiple positions, or you don't have it, but you defaulted. So let me jump into that next part, and then I'll get into the judgment and how to kind of settle this and how to try to mitigate the risks as well if you're a first-time borrower. So when people come to me all the time, they go, hey, Michael, but I have history that shows that I'm making payments. I have recovered and I've done this. Okay, yeah, it does. It proves that you have been able to do that. Now, with what lender is going to give you maybe another second and third position? Is it a different one? Yeah, well, you haven't proven yourself to them. And you already have positions open. You have a judgment. You have a judgment or without a judgment. If you have a judgment, it's even worse. And so now they're thinking, well, we can't give you $100,000 on top of the $200,000, $300,000 you just have, or you have to pay off. We're going to go far less, and you have to prove yourself to us. So regardless of if you remove that or not, that'll end up happening, especially if you have multiple positions. You're not going to get more than what you initially have or are currently have in your balance. So keep that up here and understand that. So with that default, it makes it trickier for a lender to really trust you and to go in on you 100%. And sometimes we don't know that we defaulted. Maybe we're not upfront about that. Hey, we defaulted and I understand that I can't get funding again. Sometimes I don't even have to mention it. A lot of the times I will. But just keep that on the back of your mind that if you've defaulted, and I'll get into some of the things that happen here when you have a default and a judgment in place. And again, if you're just tuning in here, and I have my document open, by the way, and this is from experience that I've put together myself, not something that I just found on the web, but because I have certain files and many clients who have defaulted, I wanted to put a document together. So I already covered the part of this Excel spreadsheet, and I also have it on my Google Docs, that if you miss one of your payments, you're liable. And if you don't clear that up, if you don't pay the debt back in time and in an allotted amount of time, You can be sued. There can be a lawsuit against you. You would have to appear in court. Oh man, there's so much that you want to avoid. And just filing bankruptcy or just closing an account doesn't do you any justice. And if there's a lawsuit and a judgment in place, just know, even at a default level, just at the default without a judgment, they can come after your personal assets. They can close your personal and business accounts until you pay them back. And so I just put this document together of a few examples, things that you just can't always find online. So I wanted to make sure with my experiences combined that I go into some of the things that have happened. So let me go over here. I already covered that part. I already said that you're legally required to pay back the money you borrow from a creditor or towards that debt collector, whether it's credit card, loan, or any other form. Make sure you respond to the lawsuit. Okay, I covered that already. And I don't have to really get into why are creditors able to do this to you. And so just think about that. Make sure you make the payments and that you get it. If it's not justified, that you dispute it. But the majority of the time, it is justified. And, well, that's obvious. There's a little bullet point that I put here. So I just want to make a point that if you are involved in a default and there's a judgment placed on you, or before you even get a judgment, then make sure you don't get yourself involved into a lawsuit. Make sure you make the payments. Pay back the debt. Don't just close up shop, avoid the mail that came in. You were notified, you were told, hey, I need to collect my money, and you're more than capable of doing it. But if you ignore it, and that's the reason why, and you might not give somebody that reason that you ignored it, they're going to ask, like, okay, well, what kind of liquidity, what kind of equitable collateral? They're going to start looking at things. They're going to start pointing here and there. And they're going to look and see, okay, you had this back in 2015. You had this back in 2016. Maybe you had a default in 2015. And then it just shows up with you have a judgment just recently in like 2020 or 2021, 2022. So that can carry on. You might have removed and disputed and taken care of that and then have proven yourself since that time, but you have a judgment or you don't have a judgment. However it looks like, at the same time, you have to begin somewhere. That doesn't give you pardon. That doesn't give you a release clause, or it tells you, hey, it's been removed, it happened in the past. Yeah, it happened in the past, but you still got to prove yourself. Doesn't mean you're going to get as much as you believe to. Oh, and the other part of it, this is what I wanted to say. If you've defaulted, or even with the past default judgment in place or a current default judgment in place, and you're looking for like those lines of credit, even bank line of credit, those won't work. If you're looking for a line of credit and you maybe have a lump sum, they're not going to approve you of it. So you can have an A tier paper file, a B tier, C tier, whatever that is. Even the lowest, like I said, they won't pardon that. They won't look at it and go, we can get you a line of credit, even at a minimum amount, as opposed to the A tier lender. They're going to say, you've defaulted, you haven't even taken care of a default with a judgment in place. Like, you just took care of it. It was just most recent in the last year or two, even just recent 2 years, like credit report history. Like, and you can't always just automatically remove that, even if it's not justified. It doesn't always appear on, like it used to once appear on like the Nexus reports, all this stuff, but it doesn't usually report on that anymore. They've made changes just recently. So I got to stay on top of those things as well. And so they won't award you with the line of credit. You won't even get an offer. You won't even be able to touch that. Even if you get your foot in the door and say, hey, I have a position, or I don't have a position, but I'm going to take that $40,000 to $50,000 at a high rate because that's all they can give me because of my default. Maybe there's a default judgment in place, which makes it worse. You still have a debt to owe. And it doesn't show you've done anything since then to make sure you make that repayment. Or you have, but it's just not enough. You're still not even there yet. And so, hey, you've shown some rebound, but we want you to show us more. This is maybe a different lender now, not the same lender, but we go, okay, show us more. Show us that you can take care of us. We're trying to take care of you, but you got to take care of us first. We're looking at you as in saying if we can trust you. Can we? And your word over the payments is another thing. Prove it. Don't just say it. Hey, this is my history, man. This is what I've done. Or look, yeah, but prove it to this lender that you can do that. That's how it works. And even if you get your foot in the door again, you're thinking, what happens? Am I eligible then to get a line of credit? I ask those tough questions to my lenders and underwriters all the time. And I want to know if anything that they've done, they've changed. I'm always on top of it. And so they come back to me and go, we can't do that. Once you've really defaulted, even if it's just a default without a past default judgment in place, they're not going to want to give you a line of credit. It doesn't work that way, where it can just be like you get your foot in the door, get repetitively, you get lump sums of money with the merchant cash advance, a term loan. It's an intermix, term loan intermix, 4 to 24 months a lot of the time. APR sometimes with term loans, but not always. And so when they see that, they're not going to give you the line of credit as easily. They're not even going to give it to you at all. It'll be very, very difficult to, even if they want to give it to you, it'll be very, very seldom that you get a line of credit. So what do you have to do? Let me know in the comments. What do you have to do? It's an obvious answer. If you said, pay your debt. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, well, why can't you pay your debt? And then I'm going to go into some of the things you can do if you have a default. And I have my document here again. My laptop's in front of me. Well, I guess I'll kind of just say it now. There's more of a definition that I have when you have a default. But you guys have the gist of it. A lawsuit, you can get sued. You would have to appear in court, or there'd be another workaround around that online. But you do not want to be in part of any of that, because it ends up hurting you over an extensive amount of time. It could be years. Yeah, you can challenge the judgment, which I put here, if you don't think there's a way out. It's kind of like on your credit report when you have to dispute something that's derogatory or that's not valid, or you have late payments or anything that you need to put in it for a dispute letter. I'm not going to say that a dispute letter will help with the past default or default and judgment in place. It doesn't really work that way, especially if it's valid. You won't win that dispute. You just only have a few ways to settle that. You just got to make sure if you were notified on time, let you know if you got if you got a letter in the mail. Usually is what ends up happening. You can get notified online, especially if you're working with a lender. Okay, here's the part. So I have people come to me and go, how can I find that on my report? So like I said in the beginning, the reports are constantly changing. My credit repair specialist, he's a pro. He's like a huge pro at this. Sometimes we miss some things too. And the reports are always changing. Some things show, other things don't. So these are things that are almost most recent. And so you have to understand that what once showed one thing doesn't always show it again. But it's out there, and the lender knows this. And so at times, to find that out where they're pulling from, you may have to call an Experian to get more on your credit history. And it might not be exactly the default. It might have to be like a charge-off. It might have to be a bankruptcy. It might have to be something equivalent to, because that can lead into that. The reason in why you declared bankruptcy in the first place was because of that default or that default judgment in place. Or it could be another format. And they may give you a little bit. They can't give you everything. And it's very personal. And so if you go to the lender, I can associate you with who that lender is a lot of the times. It may not be me who it was through, so it could have been another broker at the time. So I can't get involved. And I don't want to get involved because I can't give you that information. And I don't want to get too involved. And I had a client today too who, from an underwriter, sent me feedback saying they defaulted. And then I know who they defaulted with, when they defaulted. And so the next part of that is a background check. Like, they told me they also had background issues. And I can't get into that. I can't tell the client always. The underwriter tells me, hey, Michael, I can't disclose that. I can't give you that. That's just very sensitive. I don't want you being held accountable and being responsible for something. Even if you're not, and it's bad, not bad, they don't want me to be involved with that. They don't even want to involve themselves with that. You know what you've done more or less in the past. Maybe it's a criminal history, child support issues, or just something doesn't check out. Maybe there's been abuse in the past. Believe me, I've had clients of all these magnitudes coming through, and it doesn't necessarily decline the file. It can say, hey, this happened some time ago. You've learned your lesson. It shows you have. And with what you've been making debt obligations to in your business and where it is, we can work with you, and we've done that. So just understand that. And does the debt belong to you? This doesn't have to be said. I put a huge extra bowl full of bullet points underneath that. But just find out if it is or isn't your judgment. Request a proof of debts from the collection agency. You can write a debt validation letter, which I've had clients do, stating that you don't believe the debt is yours and you would like proof. I mean, you know if it's you. Don't go around this and wasting energy and time on something that you know you've done yourself. Another part that's very important is that within the statute of limitations, I put here, they are given, as in the debt collectors, creditors, a statute of limitations, a set number of years to be able to receive your debt, and the amount of time that they have to pursue your debt. Are you judgment proof? People who don't have enough assets for a creditor to take off after a judgment, are often excluded from their garnishments and more on what they're levied. And putting a UCC lien, it's like putting a UCC lien on a property and what the lender can claim, because they need to be able to get their money back. So you got to understand that. You can consider settling. That's another thing. That's part. I'm not going to go too far in depth with that. Hire an experienced attorney here, I put, is another part that you can get into. But even when you hire a lawyer, hire an attorney, I mean, why should you go to that extent if you know what you've done? And you can't just settle this. You have to wait possibly years for this really to just leave. And sometimes it's not 1 to 2, it's like up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years that I've seen it. So just know that. Here I have another doc. Let me check out 1 second. We already covered that part. Okay, so one thing that I didn't cover aside from the assets and the personal and business accounts, even they can withdraw money at times. And there are people who do get money and they don't realize that, hey, money's been getting taken out of my account or somebody took my money. Well, for one, if you have an advance or a loan open, ACH withdraw, ACH transfers. So just know that the money goes into your account, usually ACH, and they get it withdrawn. So that's the way that the lender makes their money. But the other way is sometimes they can come up after those kind of things. So wage garnishments, you have bank levies, like I said a little bit earlier with levies. You have writ of execution, tax intercept, property lines. The creditor then places liens on a real estate, like I said earlier. You hold, prohibiting you from selling them, that transferring that property without first paying off your debt, especially to them in that first position. You may have other obligations and where you have to give up a certain amount to that creditor or that debt facility or that debt collector. And then you have another one. So if you haven't fully paid somebody what they owe, I mean, a lot of the times you won't even get an advance because you haven't done that yet. Especially with the past default and a default judgment in place, it makes it even difficult to. So I covered everything in this document. I'm going to conclude here in a moment. And let me just recap. We spoke about what is a default judgment. I'm coming back up to the top of my document. Just making sure that you are not sued or there's a lawsuit pending against you, and you have to go through court. The whole statute of limitations then becomes a part of all of this, and making sure that you make those payments, don't miss one. And there are options, so I kind of want to go into a little bit of that now. But the default judgment in place, again, that's when you've been sued. Usually default is like, okay, you defaulted, but what happens within that time is up to you. If you don't make the payments, judgment. And it can happen in a year, it can happen in a couple of years. They give you time to pay that off and you haven't. And maybe you declared bankruptcy, maybe you foreclosed, maybe there's some things that happened and you just thought doing that would alleviate the pressure. And maybe you thought changing your entity, maybe you thought changing the ownership percentage. Maybe you want to have somebody else listed, maybe as a guarantor to get you that loan and get you more. It doesn't work that way. Your name carries a lot. It transitions over to another entity. You can have an S Corp, C Corp, limited liability company, LLC, sole proprietor, self-employed. These things, they show up with you moving to another entity, to another industry, to another organization. You working underneath someone else, part ownership underneath their belt. And it doesn't help them to bring you on board because of those issues. So these are things, especially when you go into partnership with a business and a business owner, you have to give them that. If they don't, they're going to want to learn about I would be wanting to learn about your report. If you come into partnership with me, if I give you 50-50 split, if I have the majority owner, 75-25, even at that, they might not check the second owner. I want to make sure that I know your credit history. I want to know what you've done in the past because I am not using your word against mine. And so I want to make sure that I can see it publicly. What displays on the public records? What isn't showing on the public records? Like I said here, a past default judgment in place, a judgment in place usually, those don't show on the credit reports the majority of the time. They used to maybe once, they don't show. So you have to go to the source, and the lenders have this communication channel where they know more information, and there's just some things that they can't give me. I wish I could give you the answer to, but even them, they won't give me it. I might know the name of the underwriter. Other times, we don't know the name of the underwriter all the time because of the transition, because there's things moving. They won't always be open to that. It's not always like that. A lot of the times we know, but a lot of the times we can't know, especially if it's not my file that I was working with and it happened with you in a different brokerage back then. So making sure you take care of that. I already spoke about making sure you don't have missed late payments. I talked about an MCA lawsuit. That's pretty much the default and judgment in place. And you have no more the ability to challenge or defend yourself against that lawsuit. So take care of it before it's not going to be your word over theirs. And you could tell somebody you declared bankruptcy, that you did all of this. Sorry, that first word you said, do you mean to say thank instead of eight? But back to my document here. I already gave you guys tips on avoiding the merchant cash advance. Let me get into a little bit more. I gave you other reasons on how they collect the money and how to settle, an attorney, a lawyer, and a few other things that I already mentioned. But for you, when you're in the thick of things, you have the money, find ways to cut your costs. So if you're enduring hardship, especially if you have a relationship with that lender, and it doesn't also have to be very strong, but if you have a relationship you're in the door with, you can then ask me to talk to the lender and say, hey, I feel like I'm going to be behind on my payments, and do it before ahead of time. If you can't, okay. But get in contact before it's way too late. You missed 1, 2, 3 payments. Well, you could have done it earlier. You could have cut back costs before. So what they do is they might trim it where you're paying a little bit less per day or per week, and they might give you an extension to help mitigate that risk of you defaulting. And it not always happens, so don't bank on that, even if you have a strong relationship. Even the A-tier clients, they don't want to hear that, the A-tier lenders. So making sure that you pay your debt. Don't bite off more than what you can chew. That's another part that I want to go into. How do you not default? And this is not in the application process, or this is not after you get funding. So this is before that. So making sure that you understand. Well, let's avoid that. Let's get into when you're in it, and then we'll get into before you get the funding, because we're on the track of when you have the funding. So my next point that I want to make mention here is try to restructure the debt. So there is debt restructuring out there for those of you, and I have the best in the space who work with debt reconstructing. And I'll get into consolidation in a moment. They're a bit different. But we can drop the cost maybe by 70 to 75%, depending on the file, if not more. But don't wait too long. We can restructure it, drop your costs down, and even at times when we drop it, we could probably put it underneath one and a better type of a term. Not always, but we have to look at what your remaining balances are and how much you paid off and what other debt obligations to make justified that we can get you that transition into a different type of a term or a service. So try to restructure it. That's an important idea. I put a few subnotes here. I already covered that. Yeah, I already talked about that. Make sure that you're able to communicate that with me and or the lender directly. If you got to go through me so we can speak to the lender, that's another way. Make it more affordable for you. You have to consider your debt obligation. If you want to get out of an MCA contract, you can consolidate that debt. This is what a lot of people have been doing with me lately. So there's people who are qualified for a monthly term loan, or they are qualified for an SBA loan. A lot of people are doing that right now with me, like tons. I would have loved to help people who have had that default and judgment, then transition and consolidate, or even before they defaulted. But it's hard sometimes if you just are on the thick of it. But there are people who will come to me every single day. They go, Michael, I got 3 advances. I got 2 advances, term loan or this. I want to put it underneath one. Can I consolidate it? Okay, you might have a refinance situation, and then we might consolidate, or vice versa, or one or the other. But then we go, hey, we can put this underneath a 10-year amortized SBA loan, where you over here have 6 months, or you have 12 months, 15 months, and we can consolidate. We get you approved for an SBA. We can consolidate the remaining amount underneath one, so it extends the term. So you're good to go. A lot of the times it isn't like we're combining that on top of that. It's like we're putting it all underneath what you already have. Sometimes we do, but not all the time. So that's what I mean by putting it underneath a debt consolidation. And I have a few points. I think I covered that. Yeah, you'll bring your interest rates low. A lot of the times that works. So it's almost like you're refinance consolidating underneath one there. And it helps to have good credit, which I put here. I'm not going to get into the SBA criteria. I have a few videos that I made, and I'll link you to that down below in the description. You can also check the questionnaire form, guys, if you're wondering how to get in contact with me, go to the bio, click the link, first blind funding submission form, fill that out, and then I will get to show you your best funding option and options thoroughly broken down from top to bottom. Whether you can or can't qualify, I'll also show you those. It'll be a very lengthy email, bonuses and everything. Cover that. Term loans, yes, they are more favorable, I said here, compared to an MCA. There's an intermix now in this market. Usually it's a term loan intermix with an MCA, but or I should say term loan intermix with an advance, because an advance, hybrid advance, encompasses all revenue, not just merchant credit card statements and a few more things. Again, I already covered that. You can hire a debt relief lawyer for your help. I have a team for restructuring. Make sure you take care of that. I have people here, and I put some names down that I won't list right now. Now let me come back to this, and then I'm going to close up shop, see if anybody has any comments. I have a couple of documents that I put together for like just a default, a judgment, and then a few things that I wanted to put separately. I already spoke about how would happen if you did have a default judgment against you, what they can come after, freezing your accounts, talked about bank levies. And it can hurt everything, like social security number and a lot of things that can be at fault. I already talked about if you have a default judgment, what you should do from top to bottom. Again, I'll reiterate, challenge the judgment, and I'm going to kind of skim this right now. I'm not going to get into the juicy details like I did a little bit earlier, and there's more I can give. Were you notified on time? Can you make that dispute? Is it in time to make the dispute is another question. I would do it right away within the first 2 weeks. Does the debt belong to you? You have to understand that. A lot of the time it is. And sometimes you don't even know, because here's the thing. I'm telling you guys from experience. Like, that's why I put this document together. So I had a client not too long ago in the construction industry. This is kind of wild. So they're changing ownership. So there are 2 part owners, and they wanted to give it over full 100% ownership to a gentleman who's been working their butt off. And I spoke to them, and I won't say their name. I just had it on my mind. And speaking to them, I asked them the default question. And sometimes it doesn't have to be asked. Other times you don't know, so the majority of the time will ask that question. It's a part of what I asked. And so they didn't know. You know, they came back saying, no, there shouldn't be it. Okay. No default. Checked and everything. Okay. No default. So the owners, they likely knew this, but I had to speak with the other person. This is why when I speak to a secretary or somebody that handles the books, they'll know more than anything. But do you know the answer to that? Have you defaulted? Has the owners defaulted? Oh, well, oh yeah, okay. So how long ago was that default? Well, it happened in 2012. Okay. And you since then paid the debt? Yes, I have. Have you since then taken out a cash advance, a term loan, or any other type of loan, credit cards? What have you done in the past? Okay, I've done nothing, or I've done a little bit of this. And the reason I only got a little bit here was because they waived my default. It was just really recent when I had applied to a credit card company. Okay, what did that credit card company say? And I usually know what they tell you. So, okay, you got to wait this amount of extended time. And they make it harder for you, especially the interest rates galore, just increase. Even after 0% interest for 6 to 18 months. That's even harder to get, especially when you're applying for the credit line hybrid. And the credit history is a huge component. And that makes up a lot of your score. So when you go through that, okay, you haven't made the payments. Why didn't you make the payments? I filed bankruptcy. I thought that would be a way, or I had no other option but to file bankruptcy because of the default, and I couldn't make my debt obligation. So I thought that would be helpful to remove it. Or I called in and I took the necessary steps to clear this, remove this, because there are certain ways. But it still shows up in your history, underneath your social security, underneath your credit. Don't think just because you could have removed part of it, or you proved that you were able to make payments, that justifies now you are eligible for more. That's not how it works. Once you default, you default. I spoke about, does the debt belong to you? You can do things with a validation letter. Check if the debt belongs to you. Check the summons or the letter you got in the email, usually online. You can also check the county records office. Another point that I made there. Is the debt within the statute of your limitations? I already spoke about that. If it turns out that your debt expired before the time of your judgment it was issued, that could be a grounds to dismiss the case. So that's another part where you can kind of just fade away. So it's still difficult to get even more funding though with the default. Are you judgment proof? Not everybody. So consider settling, hire an experienced attorney, and you have options like having consolidating, and then debt restructuring. There's debt settlement. I would say bankruptcy, but again, that's not going to do everything. So if you're being pursued, you can file bankruptcy. A lot of people, they end up changing their business checking account. That's what they do, or a personal checking account, like that's going to do anything, or they change their entity name. And once you default, you default. If your debt is significantly high, you can't afford to pay that back, and then you can contact the bankruptcy attorney. Declaring bankruptcy may discharge you of the unpaid debt, and usually it will, but again, it carries weight still. The court will issue an automatic stay on collection actions when you do file for a bankruptcy. Just know that all this stuff is happening in collections, by the way. It'll immediately stop and any wage garnishments that levies, like I spoke about bank levies earlier, as your case is then processed. And then you can stop some of the negative effects of the default judgment. And so I already covered that too, with it showing on your credit report. It usually wouldn't these days, or any civil court judgment I put there. And the credit bureaus, they do change their policies from time to time, so who knows if it comes back. And default judgments a lot of the times do not appear in consumer credit reports. But like I said in the beginning, that charged off accounts or collection accounts do remain on your credit report for 7 years from the date that that account has then first become delinquent. Very standard. So it will not, the default and judgment will not affect your credit negatively usually, but in this case that the bad debt will. So that's all I'm going to conclude with from that and those pointers. And those parts kind of go without being said. You might have already known that. You tried to fill out the form. For whatever reason, it isn't working. And you were at the right profile, right? Just to make sure you didn't go through like a scammer. Because there's people who create profiles of me. I made a video of that. I'll probably be releasing it on YouTube here soon. Part 2, though, is coming up of how to find the best lender. I think I'm going to release that today, later. So yeah, bio, make sure it's the right one. Link click, and then for some reason the bio link doesn't appear. But if you got to the form, maybe it's a cache, a cookie issue. That's what I'm believing it is. You might have to try a different browser or just start a different tab and then go back to that URL. But once you're on there, you'll be given those 2 options to select from. If you're a non-startup or if you're a startup, select either one of them. And then fill out the questionnaire there. And then it should take you to the thank you page. I don't know why it wouldn't. I fixed issues in the past with SMTP errors and DNS settings that weren't allowing certain parts of the form to come through. And then, it might also have been... Here, I can actually do a check right now. A diagnosis check. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to voice them. We've already finished talking about if you have a default and a default judgment in place. They're 2 different things. The period of default to the period of default judgment in place to the default with a past judgment in place. There are those 3. So default, how much time does it take for you to pay off the debt and what debt obligations you need to pay back? If you haven't paid up the full amount, that's another part. It can still go into default judgment in place. Now, how long from that default judgment turns into a past default? That's even worse. If you haven't taken care of that, maybe you did get something, you settled something, you brought in an attorney, you filed bankruptcy, but even then, it's like you have a default. It carries a lot of weight with you. Make sure you understand, that's the part. Sorry, guys. I know if you were sticking with me, I said I was going to come back to this. So even before you get the funding and you have these hardships on how to have debt reconstructed, consolidating, and a few other steps that I mentioned earlier, making sure you can like drop the payments if possible. Know what you're getting yourself into. Do you have a plan? Do you have a business plan? Like at the end of the day, the word that is ringing in my ear is ROI, return on my investment, return on investment, over and over. Like I can have the best processes, systems, and automation, but if I don't understand my return on the investment, on how I'm using this money, and sometimes abruptly we have things that come up, more overhead, taxes, we have payroll. We have people that leave the company and we have to make up for that. And now we're running 2 to 3 different things, but you're taking and biting more than you can chew. Understand that, the repercussions of it. I have a business plan. I have an A plan, a B plan. Well, if I had a B plan, that means my A plan wouldn't work. So I got to go all in on my A plan. Yes, but be realistic. If you don't know for exactly that A plan is going to work, how am I going to take B plan and make it work? C plan, D plan. How can I take 30,000 and then grow and expand my business with that money? How can I make more money with that 30,000 is what I'm thinking all the time. Whatever amount that I get. If I'm taking 30,000, I got to know, like, where am I putting this money into? It's going into marketing and advertising only. And I'm going to use 20,000 for my campaign, and I'm going to have 10,000 in reserve from when I see results here. When I put $1 in, I get $3 out. So my 10,000 extra, I'm going to pump right into that. If I know I'm spending about $6,000 to $12,000 a month on Google, Facebook ads, or a combination, or whatever it is, and I'm getting XY results, and I know if I'm going to take 20,000 or 30,000 and I'm eligible for, or more or less, how am I going to take that money and then scale? So I'm going to scale my ad budget, and I'm going to scale my return on ad spend, and I'm going to understand my cost per click even more effectively. I'm going to understand my conversions, and I'm going to get to that point because I know. And I know it too because if my history is showing me that if I just put more money into this, boom, 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 I already have everything set up. I just got to crank up the amount. And that's what ends up happening. So let me come back into, and I can say a lot more about things before you even get the money on like what you should be doing. But have a plan. Understand your profits. Understand your margins. And there wouldn't be an issue unless there's something, like I said, that comes up that's out of your control and you had to leave the state, or you had to do something. There's a lot of reasons. I can't tell you enough, guys, how many times I have people who come and apply, and even if I tell them, like, they still ignore that, or they won't be upfront with me. And it's common sense a lot of the time, but we don't know. It's not always your fault that people don't tell you that if you default, you're not eligible, or you are eligible, you're just not going to get as much as you want, and you're not going to get likely the service you want. So I'm on my form right now. Let me cancel that exit pop-up. And I am on the page, excuse me. So it should work. Like, without filling this out myself, I've tested it numerous times. Numerous amount. And it takes me through to the thank you page, and I can actually do it as we speak. These are just random numbers. Just to get through this quickly. And when people come to me, another red flag that I hear from people, like, I have questions when people tell me, it's not one specific person. It happens to many when they say, I've tried to get help, but nobody's really helped me. Like, they just left me for in the dust, and they didn't really give me a strategic way of doing things. And I go, why? Like, I have red flags. Those are kind of some red flags too. But it's not uncommon in the merchant cash advance industry. Like, there's a lot of, it's relentless, guys. Like, if you try to get a merchant cash advance, everybody's going to be calling you. The difference with me, though, is you have that personal and business relationship with, as well as I have the best underwriters and lenders that I communicate with personally and in business. And so I can have those connections. And usually we compete and we beat the best offers the majority of the time. And my processes are much more smoother. It's hassle-free. And we usually give you the best luck no matter what. So over here, I'm on the thank you page. So it should have gone through. Now that's the part where you're going to have to try a different device or just clear your cache cookies. Does anybody have any questions? Take advantage of this, guys. I might not be on later today. I'm taking time away from right now. I should have been putting up some videos. I should have been posting it into my groups, been speaking. Right now, it's my time where I should have been on LinkedIn. So I've taken this amount of time to be with you guys, and where I would then be on LinkedIn right now, commenting and then speaking with a few business owners who I have to get caught up on again. I did questionnaires last night from about, this one, it was 9 to 10. I didn't take too much time like the other day. But I'm still getting caught up on those questionnaires, getting caught up on responding back to emails. You guys are seeing this now, how this is not easy. It's simple. I never say it's easy. It's easy if you make it that way. It's easy if you do come in with the right profile. You can tell me you have the best profile, but when I ask, and it doesn't sometimes have to be asked, if somebody else already told you this, or they probably didn't, did you default? Okay, how long ago did you default? And what have you done? I'll ask that, like, how long ago? And is it a default with a judgment in place? And if you don't even know that answer, like, you got to tell me, yeah, I paid the debt. I didn't get sued. I didn't have to go into court or do this. Nobody took money out that or took an asset of mine and put a lien on this. And, okay. Well, if you didn't, well, now you have a default judgment in place. So what do you expect to do there? I don't know what to do. Well, I'll help you understand what to do. It's not just going to be, though, night and day. We're just going to have it removed and it will never show up again. Even if it doesn't show up on your credit reports right now, there's a systematic way of discovering that. With charge-offs, bankruptcies in the past, we'll discover the reasoning behind that. There are notes to this. Why did you file bankruptcy? Why are there charged? Why are there this? Okay, they had a default back in this time. Like, these things are checked. If you guys don't think so, I don't know what you guys are imagining. It could be some scam who's telling you, hey, even with the default, I'm not saying we couldn't help, per case basis. But be real. This is money. This isn't something to be fooled with. You got to pay. As much as you think that money is going to help you, do you really know if it will? Don't just take money to survive. Take money to thrive. Take that money where you will survive, if need be, to then thrive. You got to start somewhere. And like I said in the beginning, you have $150,000 balance remaining that you took out. Okay, shows me they're probably going to lend you like $200,000 without a second or third position, first position. Yeah, you show you have proof that you can make the debt payments. You've done it over time. But to think that in a second position we're going to give you more than that, no. We're going to give you far less too because of the default and judgment, especially the judgment. And then thinking that you're going to get a line of credit or another form, especially the line of credit. Like, lines of credit are taken very, very serious. That's more credit intensive. That should tell you everything. It's more credit based. There's revenue, yes, but credit based. And they see this history. I'm like, no, we can't just do that. Any questions? Let me exit out of my documents. I won't need that. I don't want to have too many tabs open because, not that it crashes on Google Chrome. Sometimes it does. I've even done that with email, with certain things I gotta do. About 1 more minute. I think I've given you guys enough about the default. I mean, I can get even more specific, but that's on a per case basis. Like, whatever you've done, it varies what you have to do next. But the standard and general thing is if you default. I mean, yeah, somebody will come in and probably try to help you, but it's very seldom. And if you pass that up, this is like a once in a lifetime thing, guys. If you pass that up, I've had people just yesterday pass it up. I communicated it with them. They didn't want to take it. Because what happens is when you default too, by the way, this is what happens. When you default and we do a bank verification at the end to ACH deposit, ACH withdrawal, there's online checkouts and things like that with higher tier lenders. Instead of doing a manual link login where you can set that up on your computer or desktop or mobile phone, whatever it is, so that the lender can then deposit and then withdraw. That's very common. It's very safe and secure. What they'll do is you got to tell us your information over the phone. You got to do a manual call-in with the lender. And I know you might think that it's not right. And you are saying, well, anything can happen over a phone. What if somebody's tapped into the line? That's not what will happen. I know that for sure. I've had people who do this, and it doesn't happen. It's very safe and secure. And who you're working with, you got to know that. They don't want to see it any other way. they don't want you manually link login like a lot of other people can get because they've demonstrated and they have good history. They haven't defaulted. So if you default a lot of case, they're going to want to do it over the phone. You got to call the number that we provide you with, and they expect you to call, or they'll call you, either one. A lot of times you call in. But hey, all right. Now we're going to set up a temporary username or password, or hey, can you send us the username and password to this business checking account, whatever it is. And it's very safe and secure over the phone too, by the way. I know how it sounds. I wouldn't want to do it, but you have an ultimatum there. You have no other thing to resort to. And a lot of the times it is over the phone. Sometimes it isn't, but like 99.99% of the time it is. And so when that happens, I know people get cold feet. They go, oh, no. And there's a lot of reasoning too, because it's more sensitive because maybe you've had a issue in the past where you've had fraudulent activity caused by some other connection software, and you're thinking that they're wrong when you're the one that's wrong. It's not your bank. It's not that Plaid Connect, or it's not somebody else's banking. It's you. You caused this problem. And it sucks for me to tell you guys that. And I don't say it in a bad way, but it's like, you guys did it. It's your fault. I don't say it like that, but it's just not my nature always to do that. And I could, but I just don't want to do that. And so you were at fault for defaulting. So there's a reason why. It's not your bank. Your bank, like Chase or Wells Fargo, whatever it is, they're not like telling you to not link because it isn't legitimate. They tell you this because they're a bank and they're traditional. So when they tell you, hey, don't do this, don't give them your username, it's because they don't know how this works. They're not connected with private lenders. There's a disassociation with that. So you're going to take their word over ours. Go ahead, do that any day you want. You're going to miss out. This opportunity doesn't come back all the time. Go and apply again. And when you're applying through me, this stuff happens where you're able to get this kind of an offer. But it's up to you. If you don't see that money being useful for a project, you needed to dump more into it at once, or you can take a little bit and then get more over time. That makes more sense, and do it. But again, that's your ultimatum and that's your decision at the end of the day. Just don't put my energy and time at use for something that, hey, it's a $5,000 offer and you're trying to call me like 20 times. You're telling me to get on a call with you after I've discussed already everything. After even the lender or my underwriter got a hold of you and you still want to discuss that, I'll just send you probably a quick text message, because at that point, like I can't do that. Even for a large amount, but for a little amount, it's like the lender doesn't even want to associate themselves too much because it's too much back and forth. If you're serious, it's a yes or a no. Yes, here are the advantages. No, I tell people, saying no, you'll never know when you'll get this again. Period. Okay, let me do 30 more seconds and I'll get going. One thing I guess I'll leave you guys with, some of you are just joining in here, so I'll give it a little bit. I would say, if you ask me, what do you remember most about the clients that you bring in, Michael? Because I fund it all, like revenue, type of business, 6, 7, 8 figure businesses, large corporations, and other forms of services. The thing that I tell people generally is the answer. I remember more of my losses than I do my wins. And why is that the case? Because more people have reasons to not be approved than they do have be approved. There are much more that can go wrong in this than can go good. Because we're looking at all things. We're not looking at we're looking at revenue, but we can look at revenue, we can look at credit, time in business, we look at history, da-da-da-da-da. One we may weigh heavier than the other, and especially if it's all three, I mean, that's even more. It's not like an employee retention credit or maybe sometimes a business credit card where we're just looking at payroll, tax returns, not necessarily the bank statements, and going too intensively into the underwriting part of it and who underwrites the file. If it goes through the IRS, Treasury Department, non-Treasury IRS Department, bank, non-banking. So when I tell people this, truly. And it's not because I want to, it's how things work. I can remember my wins just as well, but I remember a lot of the people who lose instead of win. And it's not like a laugh towards them. It's a man, it's ridiculous. But hey, I even put it in a document and I shared it with other people. Like, if you're not prepared to come into this industry, like knowing that everybody who may look like a good profile may have all of these problems underneath and you're not asking those questions about them, you're going to find out and you're going to be disappointed because you're going to be a bit surprised. So I want you to know that before you walk into that application, you know without a shadow of a doubt that if your credit is at this, if you're a default at this, and I'm going to update my 6-step pre-approval lending checklist a little bit to reflect some of these things that have recently come up and some new changes, but I got you guys. Do you mean, so you mean business credit or personal credit or any kind of credit? You're probably referring to also a loan. Like when I'm speaking about 5 million, as I think the title still says that, I go into loans, but credit, yeah, very, very difficult to do this. So unless you're like top notch, high institute corporation, the Walmarts, the Amazons, they have all this retail credit and all this, all these lines. You got to combine different ones. Like you got to have a combination of business line of credit lines from business credit cards, vendor credit, personal credit. There's so much more credit that can be awarded, but it's when they start combining it. And that's ultimately what you want. And that's why these larger corporations and not just retail, but medical, manufacturing plants, everybody, like the highest well-known brands, if you looked at their profit, and I've looked at a lot of them, I have friends. And so when I look at their stuff and I go, yeah, that's the major difference. It's their profitability. When I look at everything, I look at reverse engineer, I go, that's the profitability. Okay. And then I look at their historical data and I go, okay, it is this now, but what was it about 1 to 3 years ago? What I like to see and I want to see is improvements incrementally. It doesn't have to be a huge, if it's a huge jump, then I have to check even more deeper and see, okay, what made that? Like, what increase your revenue? And if your increase in revenue went up that much, what then happened to the overhead and the expenses and payroll and stuff like that? So even more, if you can prove that your expenses, usually as your revenue rises, your expenses can rise. But if you prove that you made a significant jump in your expenses, to take that extra jump and make this more profitable, not go backwards. I'm not saying take on a new project and then your profitability just tanks or goes backwards. But if I didn't do this, Michael, I wouldn't have grown. And I get that, but what happened to profits? Your bottom line is what's most important. What's your profit? And not only on a yearly net operational net income, but if I reverse engineered from your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your tax returns, etc., what am I looking at per quarter? And that's per month as well. And I break it down to the first month, and I break it down even into smaller increments on what are you doing on a daily to get you there. So if I see the profit margins from month to month, like, okay, so it went up 5% this month, you increase your sales here. And how and why did you increase your sales? What made you increase your sales there? What did you focus on more to increase that? Okay. And so you're seeking funding to maximize not only sales, gross profit margins, but overall profitability month to month over the next 6 months. And then that, what would it do to your profitability? It wouldn't increase it by much, but I have another project here that I'm trying to add that I know that if I took this money and I applied it to this part of the process, at least a minimum, then that service will then get me an additional 20 to 30,000 per month. So that's how you think like a business owner. You don't start thinking, I'm going to pump and dump any kind of money. I'm like going backwards. You think money's just going to solve it? No, you're just throwing more, what's the word they say? Fuel, I guess, but bad fuel to the flame. And just imagine putting more fuel and that flame coming in and attacking you. Like you just put some flame in it. Oh, you just put some fuel in it. And you're like, oh, the flame is starting to get warmer to you because you don't know what you're doing. So don't use bad debt. Use good debt, guys. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but I've worked with business. I have my own businesses that I do this for. I worked underneath other businesses who I looked at their budgeting, I looked at their reports, and I helped them trim costs. I helped them focus on one thing, and it brought their profitability up. Not only by 15, 20, by 30, 40, 50% because of me. I didn't have to get that from someone. I knew. I looked at their records. I saw they have X, Y amount of customers that they make this amount. They're doing a delivery here. They're doing this also on, they have their marketing and advertising spend. So they maybe have a logistics side, they have a financial side. So what are they putting into this per customer? And I go, are they maximizing it per category? Are they maximizing their delivery here? Okay, they have that customer who's paying them about 10 to 20,000 a month. And then this customer who's paying them only 5 to 10,000, but they only pay them over every 1 to 4 or 5 months. So how can I double down on the one who's paying 10 to 20, 10 to 30,000 and receiving 10 to 20, 30,000 in revenue per month? And so I go, maybe we make more constant deliveries. Maybe we offer a new product to deliver to them so that entices them to want to do more business with us. So now we have an upgrade. Probably it's a phone we're selling to them, for example. So I go, we have the latest product and they're a third-party distributor. So we go, okay, we can enhance the inventory. We can bring the inventory level up and then send more out to them and then distribute more at a higher rate per week. Instead of doing it 1 to 3 times we deliver, we're going to do it 5 to 7 times. And we're going to increase employees to have to do that. And then that's only one segment of the company. See, I'm telling you guys, this is the truth. And you guys are probably like, yeah, I know this stuff, man. Come on, please. I run a 7-figure business. Cool. And I don't think you mean that in like a pompous way. Don't ever be pompous, guys. And don't have an expectation when I have to justify it, it's like, where did that pompous attitude go all of a sudden? Where'd your ego go? Where's your frustration? And people are very thankful when they come to me because I don't only just work on getting people money. As you guys just heard me talk about, I help people with their bottom line. If you guys need help with your bottom line, come to me. I can do it. I used to do it for a good amount of time. I have to outsource some of that to my team. I can stay on top of it too and know what's happening. But there's departments that I have that can work on this. And the best of the best. People that I've worked with, people that I've also helped myself. But the ultimate question is if you will help yourself. You can't always do it alone. You need a consultant. You need an expert broker. You need somebody in a personal credit department. You need somebody in the business credit department. You need somebody who's going to be in the bottom line. I was going to say the word concept in the bottom line department. But you want to make sure that you are there, and there are more levels. It's not rocket science, but if you're the business owner who's like running everywhere like a chicken with its head cut off, you have to do the products, the marketing, you got to do the operations, you got to do the finances. I know that because I began there. And by the way, guys, we're done if you guys are just joining me, but I don't like to talk. I just think this information is helpful. I'm an introvert. So I've been there where I had to do everything in the company. And I mean everything. I even had sweat dripping off my forehead, breathing intensively. I didn't think I could breathe some nights. I couldn't go to bed. Last night, I didn't say this, but I'm dealing with having an account restored on like YouTube. I have another channel and stuff. And I had a branded channel and I'm waiting to hear back because I need to reinstall it. I transferred from different emails that I had to. So I was up having to send something in by 1:30 p.m. or a.m. that I didn't have to, but I could have waited in the morning. I just couldn't. I wanted to make sure I responded, and I heard something back today as soon as possible. So I was up, and it reminded me back to my days when I would be up until 3, 4, 5 in the morning sometimes. And then I would wake up at 6 or 7. But other times I'd go to bed early and wake up like 4 or 5, 3:30 in the morning. Not so much the case as these days. But that shows dedication. You know, take care of your baby. It'll take care of you back. Excuse me. So yeah, that's why my hair, my eyes. I need to do a few more things, and I'm probably gonna go take a nap, guys. I really need it. I'm running on low. I haven't even had breakfast yet. I haven't even had a sip of water. I had a little bit. If that doesn't show you dedication, I don't know what will. Are you that dedicated like me? There's a line between being dumb and being smart. Like, I'm not dumb by any means. It's just I enjoy this time I get to spend with you guys. Okay, 20 more seconds. I'm just updating a few plugins on my back office of my website. Remember, guys, know what you're getting yourself into when you go into business. You don't want to be that person who then goes get funding and doesn't appropriate their funds, or commingles their funds in another way. Grant opportunities and all that, guys, will be in the bio. Make sure to check that out, or in the description. There are lots of options. Harder to get a grant, though, these days, so I wouldn't be even banking on that. I'm in my other back office where I can see like documentation, and I can see my clients, the underwriting process, the lenders reaching back out to me, and then they also do it separately via an email. Okay, so no more questions, no more anybody wanting to comment. Write something very quickly, 10, 15 seconds before I go, and then write the rest of it. Countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, self-destruct in 5, 4, 3. Oh, dun, dun, dun. And just so you guys know, I can be in here for a little bit. I think I'm going to cut this off at most 11. I have already overextended by an hour. Like, literally have. Usually I'll do this in the afternoon. I didn't think I'd do one today, though. Appreciate you guys. See what sense of urgency, see what fear of missing out, see what remaining offer does. So what does that say as a business owner before I go to the comments? So are you adding any kind of urgency, fear of missing out, an enticing offer to your business? See, if you guys didn't know this, I have a digital marketing background. So I have a digital marketing agency. I have affiliate marketing businesses. And so on top of that, this is my main thing. So having acquired the marketing skills, I'm not by nature good at it. I'm not at nature at any means am I good at sales. I can do it better now, but it's not like I'm a salesperson. That's not my nature. I went to school academically, chemical engineering, first of all, and then transitioned into business roles and did some other things through business management. But let me come to the comments. Give the best loan options. I like that. So I can't give, like, if you give me more, I can ask you question after question. What type of business are you into? And how has been business going for you this year so far? I know we're only in January, about 5 days in. And it also determines on how you're going to use your funds. So I got to know if it's like equipment. Is it going to be an equipment specific lender that I have to associate with? Is it not? It's more revenue based. So there's also those factors. But best loan options. I want to lead in with the MCA or cash advance term loan intermix. So if you guys haven't heard of this, before, a long time ago, there used to be a cash advance, or a merchant cash advance traditionally would have run from 3 to 8 months, or a little bit less, 2. But nowadays, you see it where it's like 4 to 24, 3 to 24 months. And so once you get to the 12 to 24 months, that's more of an intermediate. You can call that the term loan, but it's not always APR term loan, 12 to 24 months. Don't always expect to get an APR product, especially non-banking related. Sometimes it is, especially if we're doing a monthly repayment, but monthly repayments are hard to get, especially without collateral. So what happens is you can then get an intermix of 12 to 24 months, but it's underneath the cash advance. But it's not a traditional merchant cash advance. And this means it's a hybrid where we encompass all revenue coming into the business. So some people make it sound fancy and go, hey, we can get you a monthly repayment. This reports to the credit bureaus. It doesn't always do that. We can get you a monthly. There's monthly option line of credit. That's not always going to happen. So a lot of the things in this market, aside from the best loan options being an intermix between that, you have equipment, you have the SBA loan is the cream of the top. That should be everybody's ultimate goal. And that's my goal for you guys. I can take people there in a breeze like that. Others, I got to work with you. And so I take people from no business. I've taken people literally from no business, no concept, no understanding of that business. They just know they want to start one because it's other friend or family. And again, keep in mind, I've worked under construction businesses in the past, manufacturing with my dad. He's a CNC machinist now. I did retailing some time ago, warehousing. So I've seen everything like from the inside. And I had to also work and do the grunt work for these businesses. So I know what it is to put my hands in and do hard labor. I kid you not, early 20s. After school, I went that route and just to learn. And I knew those weren't for me, so I had to get out and do other things. But it's great. Nobody has that kind of experience level that I do, at the experience and the wisdom. People would say that I have that at a young age, at 30 years old. I'm an old soul at heart, literally. Equipment, intermix, MCA, cash advance, term loan by itself. It could be more of a longer term, past 2 years. So it's like 3 to 5. But then when you get to the 3-year mark, that's when you're looking like at an express loan or a standard or an SBA small business loan through the SBA 7A. That's when you're looking at 5 to 10 years in a lot of cases. Up to 10 years working capital, up to 25 years real estate. SBA 7A. There's 504 loans that can extend the amount, a maximum amount in term. But the 7A is very popular, and that's, like, I already have everything, guys. Like, I look at a ladder. Think about it. My mind works this way. I look at a ladder. Let's say this is where I've already done all this, by the way. I have a concept here where I'm putting, and I've created content on this. So at the top of the stairs, you have the SBA, and that can mean 7A, 504, maybe it's 8A. You're looking at getting mentorship. And there are grant mentorships, by the way, guys, who help entrepreneurs out that I can connect you guys with. So you can better handle your money. They better prepare you to get an actual business loan or an advance, etc. But underneath this, what I'm writing, you guys can't see, is I have some other sensitive information over here. I don't really want to show all that. So over here, then I go, okay, what's a level before that? So the SBA may collateralize, and if they don't ask for it, there are other things they will. Then we look at a collateralized private lender underneath the SBA. That might be the next step. If you have collateral and you want to give that up, okay. You do? Okay, we go through all the constraints and the parameters. We go through the rates. We go through everything. Underneath that, we could say it's non-collateralized, revenue-based funding. We could say, hey, leverage your revenue. Your bank statements, it might be needed, tax return, profit and loss. If we get to that point and we need it for an amount you're asking for and are eligible for. Not always, especially A-tier lenders. Like, they won't always ask for a P&L or a tax return all the time. And so over here, then I go, what's a step underneath revenue without collateral? Bank statements, all-encompassing revenue, credit. I don't want to say credit is like the bottom. It's not, and by any means am I saying credit is like lower. It could be up here. And credit can go in between these spaces too. So like credit in each one of these categories can go in between an intermix. And so credit is what everybody knows. Credit is personal. And I put here in parentheses plus B times 2. So 2 times P plus B, which is personal plus business. I like mathematics, by the way, if you guys didn't know. So 2 by P plus B, that equals 2P plus 2B, which is a multiplier, is what I use. So 2P meaning you're going to double your personal credit. How do we look at doubling your personal credit? And I also use in parentheses a multiplier, 2P times 2B. So at the same time, we're multiplying, and I have it all right here. We're multiplying our business credit. So at the same time, when you're multiplying your personal credit, you should be multiplying your business credit. And underneath the credit, I wouldn't say there's much more, because you could say credit being personal / startup loans, personal credit, business credit, vendor credit, credit lines, Equity crowdfunding, you could probably put that at the bottom here. Angel investors, somewhere falls in between the line of all this. But friends and family, right? At the very bottom, at least we have friends and family. And right here, like, are you limited? If you're limited, okay, what do you do on your credit? Okay, we tackled that. Now, what do you do on your revenue? Without collateral, okay. Now, what do you have? Do you have any kind of collateral if you want to offer it up? We can get flexible. Okay, you don't want to? Oh, you do? All right. So let's see. Do you have the 3 C's of capital? It looks like you do. So maybe an SBA loan would be the best scenario. Even if you didn't have sufficient collateral, it's not always the number one thing they look at. So with all of that, I go through it in each and every client. And I want to make sure you're working on all of these, especially if you like don't have anything. Or if you are at the very top and you have an SBA 7(a) loan, 504 loan, hey, you got to be working on your credit. Like I want to ask you questions like, what have you done on your credit? What have you done on your business credit so far? If you have an SBA loan, you've done enough. But it's never enough. Even the SBA loan lender, if you even come back and get more too, you've already proven yourself. They want to see that you're also working on business credit, your personal credit. You're not defaulting on a government loan. And there's so much more in between this scale that I look at. Can I help with insecure funds? I can help with any. I just want to make sure that by when you mean also insecure, insecure, but I just want to make sure the details line up. Like at the end of the day, when I speak to somebody, I want to make sure that you have like the right profile. I don't like I get shocked. Like I just got a sense of like, do you guys ever get like a bit of sensitivity, like because it feels good and it's like you're doing your best and you're just so thankful. Like I do whatever I can to help you guys. Literally, I'm right here. It's all probably been almost like 2 hours now. I shouldn't even be doing this for this long. I have a time schedule to be on. But yeah, I can definitely help. Low, no doc loans. Okay, awesome. Appreciate you saying that. Intermix. Like I said in the beginning. What that means is it could be a cash advance, merchant cash advance, hybrid cash advance, term loans, similar. Sometimes more 6 months bank statements. California, 4 months. Utah can be 4 months right now. But that would require about 3 to 4, sometimes 6 months of bank statements. Seasonal would be like 12 months, where we have to look at it more. But yeah, we can get in with like about 3 months of bank statements, a copy of your driver's license, and a voided check. Literally, it can be done like that. And you can upload this into our safe and secure portal. We usually have one, and I can see it on the back end. Then what I can do with an underwriter, sometimes the underwriter doesn't let me see that, is the soft pull on credit. So that's why the underwriter has to see those kind of things. They can discuss things with me, but not be as open because it is sensitive information. Whether I discussed it with you or not, in the way that I discussed it to you, I mean, they wouldn't want to have me go through that as well and be held accountable for something like that, and I wouldn't want to either. I'm trying to do my best. So I can't always get all the information. And you know, if you showed me something, then maybe I'll be able to see it on your report better and go, hey, that's what's happening here. And what do we do to fix that? Is there anything we can do, or do we just let it play out? Does it take a form of credit repair? Does it not? But yeah, low doc loans with 3 months, copy of your driver's license, and a voided check. I do this every day, guys. Like, this is my bread and butter. I know I said I have other businesses, but this is my bread and butter. And I don't think anybody else can deliver the way that I can and the relationship you have with me. Appreciate you, and I hope you got the answer or answers you were looking for. I can go deeper into the no doc loans, like a little bit more, but let's just leave it at a surface level for now. Appreciate it. No, sincerely though, I appreciate you. Thank you. Prayers up. Hey, welcome in. How are you doing? I see a lot of familiar faces in here. Appreciate you guys. I know you guys are busy. And hey, just like I said, I'm a business owner like you guys are. I suit up, or sometimes I'm in my pajamas on days. But hey, I got to do my things too, right? I'm not a customer service rep. I'm a broker. I'm a consultant. I can manage my own time. I can decide if I want to work on a file or not nowadays. Before, it probably was different. And I'll continue to, that's for sure. And for those of you in here, please, I don't say this enough. I know it's coming. You're probably saying that. Please share it with others who you feel will find value from it. It can be a complete stranger, friend, or family member, but you know that at the end of the night, when you can rest your head on that soft, cushiony pillow of yours, maybe next to your spouse or by yourself, but you're not lonely. You know, consciously and subconsciously, before you even close your eyes, or you could just imagine it when you close your eyes, the last thought that runs through, or even in your dreams, before you wake up, you know that you spread the good word, and somebody you don't even know, or a friend or family member, can wake up or find that information in the day and go, finally. Just with one word. They don't even have to say it. Think it. You guys seen that meme of like that little Asian child? Nothing against Asian child or anything. Just saying. There's a meme where he's like pointing. I think it's that one. And he's having a laugh. Like, that's the laugh that I had when I figured this out myself. And I didn't have any guidance in the beginning. Like, getting business funding for my businesses. Believe me. I was getting those New York calls. I was getting those Miami calls. This is what I literally did, like, a day into it. I got emailed. My information was shopped. It was on the credit bureaus. Literally, if you think my hair is already big enough now, I know what you guys are going through. I know the psychology. I know it very, very well. I know why people are hesitant, why they don't give me enough information. It can be brutal on my end too. Don't just think it's brutal on your end. You're making it harder for me. So, if you finally got your LLC, which is great, well done, and you were seeing what you could get a startup loan for, good. I love that, the way you asked it. So, in the bio, I'm going to say it because we're at the end of the video. I'm kind of tired. I haven't had water. I got to go have breakfast, guys, before noon here, Pacific Standard Time. If you're looking for a startup loan, then there are certain options. I don't want to ask you this question because it could be sensitive and I'm not a creditor. But your credit is what I would look at. Your debt to income ratio, your credit utilization. Do you have less than 35% credit utilization right now? Can you give me that answer without anything else being asked? That's the number one question I usually ask people. What is your credit utilization? And if you tell me, yeah, okay, well, what's the next step? What's the next step? But usually with the 680, if not 700 and above FICO, Experian, without any revenue, or without any time, I should say. Revenue annual requirement of $50,000 usually for the best lender. At least 5 trade lines. Do you have any accounts? Any meat and potatoes underneath them? And a few things. So if you have those, everything else looks spotless and pretty much spotless. Low amount of inquiries. Hard inquiries especially, that will like usually kill a file. And it's investigated even with the soft pull. So with the soft pull we can do this. And so if you don't have the credit profile, I want to work with you. Like literally, I said this. I don't know if you were hearing me. I know who's in here. I see you guys. Thank you. And I said, what are the fundamental steps? Friends and family. You probably have tried, exhausted those. I would feel myself like I don't want to do that. If I look back, I remember those days. So much. I know this, guys. Like I've been there. And so then my next step is credit based. And the reason why I like looking credit based, and as opposed to saying that I'm somebody who helps people get business loans, is because credit, it's going to take you far more, I think, than getting just loans over and over again. Yeah, they can help you grow and expand much of a faster probably rate. But once you're in the door with personal and business credit, like you can get access to business credit cards at 0% interest, like I've been able to. Personal credit cards you can just disassociate yourself with. Use that only for personal expenses or debt obligations on personal. That's what I would do. Clear up that debt. I wouldn't continue. Continue keeping your score up and managing your accounts. But credit, that's what I would focus on. And this is more of a credit-based program. And I work with the lenders there. And these are the best, by the way, and the underwriters that I'm communicating with all the time on your files. So it's very safe and secure. And it's legitimate and it's the best. If you guys can't get something through me, you guys shouldn't be like applying just to apply anywhere. Like if you guys can't come through me and get something, that speaks volume. Like even before I even said a word, like, damn, I can't even get it with this guy. So that should in your head be saying, it shouldn't be saying, what have I done wrong? It's, I got to finally make that change. That's the aha moment you have with me. If you haven't already had it, I've been trying to avoid that this whole time. Now I know I can't. So you gotta do it. You gotta do what you need to do. So bio link click. And then you can actually see the personal/startup loan from there, by the way. So link click, and then down below it should say personal/startup loan. I created this landing page for you guys, myself. And because I have that history, I've done websites in the past, landing pages, etc. That'll show you everything you need to do. It gives you a video of mine, lengthy, qualifications underneath, a button, click on, and learn more about it. Right now, as I've been doing this video, a lot of people have been applying, not only through here, but because I have friends and family. I have past clients or new clients coming through. And like right here, like I have my email specifically for that. Right here, see, look, I can open up this one. I won't say their name, but they have applied for a personal/startup loan, similar requirements. And I have my team on it, underwriting, and I will be getting an update. And this was just about 12 minutes ago. Yeah, with a new business, it's okay. No time in business, pre-revenue, but we just look at personal tax returns or or pay stubs. So as a past employee or you're still an employee, that will actually benefit you more. If you're still an employee, we can usually give a little bit more because of that. You haven't left a certain job to pursue a business and now you're not getting paid, especially qualified W-2 wages. Yeah, guys, I'm not like you guys are seeing me do this. You know those people who do this constantly with their hair. I don't like. Oh my god, I don't know why that's a pet peeve of mine. But when people just come on, get over yourself, and they might not think of themselves that way, but they just continue to do it because of their hair. I'm like, hey, come on, pretty boy or pretty girl. Vandal, they rejected your UCC 1. They said just because. Oh, just because, that's it? And then need help, UCC1 financial. Got it. Let me actually write this one down. I'm going to put it right, actually. What have you been doing since then? Like, I want to know what you've tried and what you've exhausted. Depends on the service. So if it's like a revenue-based non-banking loan, like online banks, they would. But SBA, yeah, they would look at that. When it is like revenue-based, a lot of them don't report to the credit bureaus. It's fine if they don't worry about it. If you guys go get an advance or a loan, it's not always like your priority is to have it report to business credit bureaus. Sometimes it is, but there are other ways of building that. And there are some lenders that will send it, if it makes sense. And it's usually the top tier lenders. And you're still waiting? Yeah, I would continue to dig in. I can't give you all the reasons. I mean, I could give you some general reasons, but that wouldn't. We'd be in here looping. And I kind of talked about UCCs earlier with the defaults. Maybe there's been a default. You never defaulted from anything, have you? Like UCCs are placed on property because of that too, liens. You probably just don't know it. Maybe there's a default with a judgment in place. It could also be that you have debt obligation that you haven't serviced, and they don't want to remove it. A lot of the times when they don't give you a reason, and it's because of those few, there's a lot more. Let me scroll up here. Guys, I appreciate you I might have to take a break and leave this open. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but there's some rumble in the tumble. Let me see up here. And I usually go live for breakfast. And if you're just tuning in, that's from, I'm tired. I slept late last night. I had to. How do you get in touch with me, or is that your team? Good question. I love that. That's awesome to ask. Okay. So I do have a team. But it's not until we get into the application, like underwriter, lender team, there's probably another associate with me who's looking at the file while I have to do other things, but we know more or less the same. If not, I know more than they do because of authority. But yeah, to get in contact with me, click the link in the bio, fill out the first form, click the first button, fill out that form, anyone else in here too, and then it will land in my email. I'll evaluate, analyze, and give you a proper response back on your best funding option and options thoroughly broken down. And I'm going to give you everything. Like I'm going to say, hey, if there's a default, you can't do this. If there's a second position, here's the expectation. If you have, by the way, if you have an account with Chime, Moneyline, or whoever it is, I mean, there's so many I can get into, like just a lot. A lot of personal checking accounts, even if they're somewhat business checking too, there's a format. A lot of online lenders, they won't take that account. I've had so many just recently. I had it a lot in the past, but there's so many of these lenders who won't accept the Chime account. They won't accept any of these other accounts. The only one they would probably accept would be a Square. I think it's still Square. I don't think they've changed it. It should still be Square unless that changed, but it should be Square, I believe. It's the one. But even then, it's just very difficult, especially if you're doing online linking to your bank account, like with a Plaid. Like you have to speak to your bank too and say, can you release this? I'm trying to get a loan or an advance. So you have some things that show up as alerts that you have to remove. It's so much more. I've had to do things like that. So bio, yeah. Or go to viralfundingsolutions.com, guys. Let me put it in the comments right now. Please no looking up my nose. One more thing. I don't know if you guys can see that. Sometimes people say they don't see the comment. But viralfundingsolutions.com, and then my email, I put michael@viralfundingsolutions.com. So let me come up here again. I know I missed some questions. Yeah, but that's the way you get in contact. Oh, is there a bank I recommend to open up for a business? Do you have any past banking relationships? Or are you talking about an online banking, digital online banking? There are so many, especially if you're opening up a business checking, and it's different for certain ones. There's a certain company that I've been connected with, especially how I get like paid out, that we transitioned into. So a company like Relevate is pretty cool. They make everything simple, especially when you're transferring. It's awesome. I've done it plenty of times, and then with clients and or with people who refer me clients as well. It's very technology based. That's just one. You know, you got Truist. You got quite a bit. But I'm with Chase overall. Like Chase is number one. It's like top tier banking. Chase. You have the Wells Fargo's, Bank of America. I'm not gonna start naming them all, but there's a good list of them. Those are the ones that I recommend. And it's also because of you got to think about the fees associated and who you give your business to, because even if you can't get a certain amount of funding, let's say maybe you couldn't get a line of credit, but you store that money in a reserve account, like you get a lump sum and you treat that kind of like a line of credit. You use it whenever you need to. So you just put it in a different business checking account from separate business checking accounts, but you might be, having to pay something for storing that money, and then you got to continue to take sales and put more money into that account. So it depends on who you go into. But more so do it for like the business credit cards. If I'm looking at a banking institution, I'm going to say Chase because of their business credit cards and what I can maximize. And if you have strong enough relationships with Chase, my goodness, like I have, they give you more. And they filter you as the priority above a lot of businesses. They filter you more if you've taken out like loans, lines of credit, by the way, not just business credit cards. Under 10% utilization, Clive, hey, welcome back. And so, yeah, that's good. That's phenomenal, actually. You want to keep it like 10% and below, by the way. On multiple accounts, I wouldn't go over 20, 30% on multiple accounts, 10%. That's why you have multiple cards too, by the way, and how you utilize. Nice, 1%, perfect. We're not saying you need to have 0%. 0% of course helps, but 1%. And I know as a business owner, that's like, come on, that's close to impossible to get 0%. I mean, you pay off the card, you pay it off on time, statement due dates, you have the closing dates. You lower it down to just $1. That can really help also boost credit. You have your debt to income a bit on the high side. Yes. And there is a more of criteria, so it could be combination of credit utilization. Sorry guys, I'm just kind of tired. I'm gonna get going. Yeah, I know. I heard painkillers. I don't have a headache or anything. I'm just kind of tired from not being able to sleep long enough. But and I'll get going. I promise that. But combination of inquiries, other unsecured loans maybe you have available, debt obligations, right? Debt to income being high because of that and more. But just making sure that you keep it low. I help people out with that too. There's people right now who are this month who are going to be applying for more, who are clearing that, who when it should have been reporting already, and then more continuing to move forward. Yeah, and there's probably more that needs to be done. If you need credit repair, by the way, anybody in here, there's something that doesn't show right. I work with the best. I used to do some of this myself, but I have to do other parts. I can't focus on every little thing. So I have one of the best truly in the space for credit repair. Very reasonable. Metro 2, disputing, a lot more accuracy, reporting, very transparent. There's a lot more. It ends up becoming about $150 per month. And I think it's still a cancel anytime. It's good stuff to go through. And again, for the amount you get, for the price you get, I don't know why you'd be complaining. If you're a business owner too, if you want to be hands off and you have a salary, you pay yourself a salary, or your business is generating enough too. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be anything like, why is it taking forever? And you need to make that change. I've already communicated it with you, even more if I know what's happening on your credit. Awesome, yeah. In 2 months, sounds good. Yeah, and let me know if there's anything you need help with in that time. Maybe I have to look at. I used to ask people for their credit reports, soft pull. I don't always ask for it. You guys can go to annualcreditreport.com, Experian credit reports, you guys can go through all these little things. The more you ask for it, though, the more it's you charge on that. You can get discounts with me and stuff like that. But yeah, check your credit, monitor your credit, personal and business, and then know what you got to bring down. Look at the strong history, the credit history. Look at the payments. Look at everything, and it'll show there. It'll reflect what you have. So it's very straightforward. Yeah, and you're still an employee and pursuing a business. Yeah, that's good. Stay as an employee until your business is generating. And I know what that's like. I've been there. And then out of my own, I couldn't do it because the company had to relieve people. You can be relieved like that, just so you know. You probably know that, and this is a big reason. Not the main, but I've been there. I was relieved a while ago when I worked with servicing as a contracting company underneath helping HP Peace Health. We were one of the bigger contracting companies there, and it was in a logistics financial role. What a time. And so I'm glad I'm not there, and I'm doing my own thing now, let's just say that. Working hard mentally, and I had physical components of the position until I built myself into another role. And those didn't even come because people want to retire, and it's just I was underpaid, undervalued. I should have been getting paid a lot more than what I got paid, and I was so not happy. But I stayed in there for stability. I could have gone anywhere and done something else, even deeper into like banking stuff. But it's just some things happen. Oh, it says here I've gone live for 90 minutes. I've also gone live for 90 minutes without a meal. Yeah, yo, appreciate you. Thank you for looking out. Yeah, SoFi is a great one to go with. And Chase. Yeah, utilize the two of them. Connect them both. Just be careful on how you're using them, by the way. Yeah, Chase is ultimately like Wells Fargo. Yeah, there's so much there I don't want to go into, but I wouldn't do that. U.S. Bank, some components, but it's also a part of how you get your files underwritten and everything that they can look at. And I have a great banking relationship with them, by the way. Do I know anybody who helps with financial planning or being better with financing? Yeah, I can definitely connect you with. I help people with that myself. Is there a specific area that you needed help with, by the way? So I know. It's okay. I know. People are probably not answering or asking because they know I gotta go and have my meal before I pass out here. No worries. This is a great one. Busy King, right here. This is the one. Your girlfriend who can be a co-signer for a loan since mine is bad. I love the way you're thinking already. You already know this. You probably have had experience, so you're probably just looking about. But yeah, as a guarantor, if you have a guarantor, you have a co-signer. I can go even deeper into that. Co-signing, guarantor, full, partial. There's a lot more to it. Sub. But yeah, if you have a co-signer for a loan, the problem is if what you're getting at is a loan, it's not the same as it being like business credit card, personal credit card oriented on the fact that what percentage of ownership is in the business. So it won't work unless that ownership, she's part owner of the business. And when it's 50-50, usually we like to see both applicants, if not less than that. Majority owner, 51% and over. So when you have that co-partnership, we look at the 2 or 3 or however many partners are in, and we look at the lowest credit out of all of them. So it's very important that you guys are looking over one another. So even then, it's like for a credit-based program, I can see that working more than actually like you have this percentage ownership in the business. And yeah, you can do that, and it would work to take on their credit, but also things that would appear would be the past credit. So yeah, we look at the 2. We look at not only co-signing, but we look at percentage ownership, and that can have some effect, or it couldn't work in your favor. Other times it would. Regardless of that, I would just try to do the co-sign and see if you can get a loan that way. But if there's anything else in the past that shows up, like this topic was on defaults, just know that. Like if your name is underneath and you defaulted, whether you co-sign with somebody or not, and you're putting them at fault too, by the way, if that happens. So I'd be very careful. Nice. Is that a business credit card? Did you use your personal credit to get a business credit card, or personal credit just to get a personal credit card? Yeah. Good job. Yeah, 10K, I mean, that's more than nothing, right? So a lot of people that start off like 500. So 10,000, that's reasonable. It's really good. And because you have 800 plus credit, which is outstanding. Good job. Yeah, normally if you guys have an 800 plus credit, maybe you don't have to have a lot of strong credit history, but I've seen people who can start off like at least a minimum of 10K. 5K, but 10K. If you get the 800s and above. I've been there, so I know that. 15,000, 20,000 and above cards and more. Just trying to pay off all debt so you raise your credit and better off my business credit. Yeah, debt to income, bring it low. And at the same time, work on bio, link click, business credit building video series is in there. So while you're working on your credit, then you can look at the business credit. Do the 2 at the same time. You don't have to do one or the other. And you can set yourself up. Business credit can take 4 months. Usually in this market, 6 to 8 months to really have it established. And for like higher tier lenders to be looking at that. Let me see if I missed anybody. 1 second. Sorry, yeah, I'm kind of low on energy right now, guys. Let me move up here. Yeah, I know. We talked about it. I'm generalizing for everybody else in here too. I want to make a point. Whenever I speak somebody directly, it could be specifically to them. But in other times, I like to make it more general so the audience can understand this. Yeah, she is not. And then you're using your finances. Yeah, that's what I would do. Cosign. And then up here, yeah, that works too. He has a great point there. And let me say this out loud for those of you. I didn't say that in this because we're not making it all about personal credit in this video. But yes, that's what I would do, and I've done that before. Increase your personal credit limit to reduce the personal utilization. Yes, that's what I would do. That's a good way to do it. Now, it's a different thing if you are open to getting more. So just know that. And then there's not just one card you should always be sitting on. Hey, did you fill out the form, by the way, Busy? Thought I had you fill that out. I would do that. I thought I did send it back to you. But fill out the form in my bio, questionnaire form for those of you and anybody else in here who hasn't done it. And then I will be able to understand more. I thought I did, though. I'd have to look for it. Yeah. Let me move this account. Yeah, who do I recommend? I know we spoke about this, but I can't give the exact until I have the full extent of the details. Like, I got to know more parts of the business for me to be able to make that decision. I literally can't say, like, hey, there's On Deck, there's Box, there's there's funding, there's this. And I have the best, by the way. Like, you shouldn't just go to those. Like, I have those relationships with them. Because you don't always get approved for the most, or you don't get approved at all. Like, they'll look at your file differently. That's why it's better to do it in a different setup. For business credit, 10K. Nice. Good job. Yeah, that's awesome. Have you been using it frequently? Or what have you been applying it to? Paying off other debt, perhaps? Or just trying to purchase supplies and equipment. Very common why people want business credit. A lot of people will get business credit, vendor credit, usually vendor credit. They use it for like products and tools and supplies, minimal stuff that they can't get a loan from and get more from. So yeah, with that said, 800 and above, less than 800 and above, we can work on a credit-based program. If it makes sense. If the bank statements are not there, let's say, but we can look at personal and pay stubs, personal tax returns and pay stubs, you might be eligible for more. So it isn't like we got to always take it to a revenue-based, although it won't be more on the business, but it will also help with building more personal credit. So that's another advantage. Okay, guys, 30 more seconds. I have to get going. I'm low. Yeah, like I have run right now, strong credit, 800 and above. And trying to use the funds for real estate, purchasing assets. That's a great example. They're expanding. So it could be a real estate investment. This might be more of a property refinance situation. So I'll have to communicate that with them. Appreciate you. Thank you. And I'll look out for it. Dito Man, welcome in. You have an LLC? Nice. 20 years. And how do I get a loan? By the way, how's business been for you lately? Beginning of the year. Have you become acclimated to this new year already? Anything bringing you backwards, moving forward? So, yeah, with 20 years, I mean, that alone speaks volumes. I have to look at everything else though, like bank statements, revenue, at a surface level. Wait a minute. If you guys hang in with me, I'm gonna go get my water. Be back. Much better. Did you fill out my questionnaire? I thought you did. I might have not sent it back yet though. I've been busy. Gotta look for it. Let me know what your name underneath it was, and then I could find it. Marky Mark, welcome in. You just don't know what business to start? Or you have a business? LLC active, no EIN, 6 years old. So are you saying that you're not generating revenue in the business right now? Was that form filled out, Dito Man? That's what I have everybody do. I don't just get on calls with people. Just so you guys know, I can't do that. It has to be awarded. It has to be reasonable for me to do this. I can't be putting energy and time into those phone calls all the time. I even speak to like some of my teammates and I even say sometimes, I didn't want to call you for this, so I'll make it quick. And then, okay, they go, they even laugh about it. They go, yeah, I'd rather not, but it's okay. Got you. Yeah, so bio, link click, first button, funding submission form. Select one of the two options. I don't know if you can, how do you exit out from here, guys? Like, you go from the left. I think it's the top left. Maybe you just swipe away or click on my face. And then I think it brings you up to my profile. And then from there, there's a bio link. Yeah, and then the first button is the one you want to fill out. And then it'll be a questionnaire form you'll go into. We're going to want to select the one on the left. Non-startup, if you're on mobile, it might look different. And then fill in those details. You can literally get it done in less than a minute. Try to be as accurate. You can estimate. But fill in those fields. Give me the time in business. You already said you had 20 years, but please reinstate that. Appreciate you. And a lot of people do this, by the way. And I'll send you a questionnaire email response back on your best funding options. Once I break it down thoroughly what I know you have, then I'll go ahead and tell you your options. And then the very first one will be the one to start with. It's generally the options are separated by green headings. I'll tell you that a lot of the time. And then you'll see a huge chunk of what that service or that lender entails. And right there, you can click the link. Like I'll tell you here, all the documents, here's how I would expect them. And then there will be an application. And I'll tell you, this is the best thing for you. Like if you don't think so, your word against mine, truly. Like literally, I've been doing this for so long that I'm up to date in the market. And so when you come to me, like it's justified what I'm giving you. Like what I'm giving you an opportunity to get into, it's the best for you. And so I'll show you that. But read it. Some people just go, I clicked the link. And then they go, oh, well, your underwriting said you defaulted. Why didn't you read the part where it said the qualifications in red? I clearly told you that if you had a default, even with the default past judgment in place, you have manipulated bank statements, whatever you've done, you just looked over that. So you just didn't read that part where it said in the beginning, make sure you read this thoroughly before you get to the end. What I do is I'll show you the description, the qualifications, how it works, and then underneath that you'll have what documents are going to be asked for and what application to go through. Like right now I'm getting a lot of people funded. Like today I've had plenty of people who took their offers, like less than 50, more than 100K, more than 300,000. I have quite a few SBA loans. Some people are still on vacation. Please don't do that. It goes without being said. Don't just leave. Or don't say something and not do it. Don't be that person. I have a person right now. That shows me your character. I hate shady character. And I hate it when somebody does that. That's like a pet peeve of mine. It's like you say one thing, you do another. I have people who tell me that all the day. And then I see their credit and I go, no wonder you are the way you are. Because your credit also may be an indicator of your character. It's not always. Not saying that. But there's something there that's fundamentally flawed in character. That's lacking. You got to work on. And that's why I don't want that. We leave that out the door. We work on it, or if you didn't work on it, leave it out the door. When we go through the application, I got your back. I'll take care of you. I asked for feedback. Please give it back. You don't take years or days and months. Like, I'm expecting something within a day or within a day to two. You're busy, I get it. It doesn't have to be a phone call. It could be a quick email. Hey, can you let me know this? I have people who don't even send me their right social security number. Like, we're not going to do anything fraudulent with it. They don't even send me the right bank statements. They don't even do the minimal work. And they require me to do more work now. Like, the heck? Now, I got to put energy and time to this and ask you. Like, literally get it done the first time. Take the second to look it up. Hey, this is what he's asking for. This is what I need to display. Boom. Once this is done, then we're going to go look for an offer from you. But be realistic. And I know I'm going to get you the best. That's for sure. Usually we compete and we usually beat out every other offer on early payments, on maximum funding, terms and rates, best lender, best relationships, by the way. So instead of somebody digging in your ear, hey, shawty, hey, come over here and get a loan. You know, those people who are telling you, hey, they try to sweet talk you. They tell you everything to make you, butter you up. They have you on a skillet right now. They're putting butter. They're adding more butter. They're cooking you. That's what they're doing. I'm not. Likewise. And yes. Anybody else have any questions? I don't mind skipping out on breakfast. But I am eating up into my schedule. Here on my calendar. Here, let me move this over. Still gotta do this. I think today is when I release part 2. Yeah, release part 2. I'm going to put right here. I already did a lot of it here. If you guys don't have a planner, I don't know what you guys are doing, but please have a planner. And I write it down. I like the online ones. But when I write something down, it shows more commitment. And I'm a guy who doesn't, contrary to popular belief, and I'm an introvert. This helps you guys with this content, but I talk less and I do more. And if you're not that individual, don't have to be like me, but please be punctual. One second. So you guys know this. I'm not just a spokesman, or I'm not the spokesman. I'm an actual broker. I actually view the documents. I got a lot of people to follow up with. So I can write that down here. So I got to go backwards and start this part again. And then I really should have been here right now. One second. You don't see the form in my bio. I see a Q&A. Oh, okay. Yeah, I told you guys this before, but TikTok is weird. They have done stuff to my account. I wasn't doing anything wrong. They just don't like some of the content, I guess. I'm being very educational with people. Yeah, they want entertainment. I get entertainment part of it. But go to my site. It is, or you can even email me, but my site, it is viralfundingsolutions.com. I know it's an extra step. Viral, something goes viral, funding solutions with an S at the end.com. And what you can do once you're on that page, I'll navigate you. Excuse me. You'll see a big face of me on the right. I help small businesses get alternative loans fast. Not just small businesses though. It's encompassing a lot. I've increased my portfolio over the years. But here you can click on the apply now button on the navigation. You might be on mobile, so you have to click the hamburger little thing. Or scroll down. If you scroll down after the part where it says what is viral funding solutions, you can read that, how it works. Underneath the how it works third step, it'll say get started. There will be a green button. So click that link and then it'll bring you to my questionnaire. So again, that's viralfundingsolutions.com. And I'll kind of walk you guys through what I got there. So over here, if I backspace that, I feel a little bit better too, by the way, because of this. Water is energy. So let me do, it's still showing me that amount. So yeah, I'm at the top of the page right now, and above the fold, look, I'm gonna give you guys a sweet tip right now. This is like website structurization 101, because I've built websites for people, by the way, and I have my own themes now. I don't do it as frequently as I used to, but because I used to have a bigger plan that I was under that I didn't need anymore as much. From time to time I still do. Friends and family, I'll help out. Digital agency side, sometimes a new client comes in, but I do more of a do it yourself, not done for you as much as I used to, because I've learned. And so above the fold, you'll see the name of the site. I got to put the logo back. I moved some things. And then you'll see the navigation from services all the way down to appointment. Don't click on appointment. Click on like the apply now. There's also the real estate capital. And then there's a button there. If you clicked on get started, it'll take you into a quiz questionnaire that you could essentially fill out. That I took time to put together, by the way, and I had to change. And there will be a page there, but let me backspace and go through this page with you. If it says new here, it says one-on-one consulting, and I do one-on-one consulting sometimes on a call. It could be SMS, text messaging, direct messaging, usually is the way I start things. There may be a group program. I'm going to come up with more of an exclusive Facebook group, perhaps, for those of you who have received funding in the past, just kind of to separate. I'm still on that. But I have a dedicated Facebook group, just so you guys know. It's growing rapidly. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, too, for those of you who are in there. And if you're not, you'll learn more about it. Digital products. I also help people, like I said, digital marketing stuff, because I had that background. And then what is viral funding solutions? So let's just list this right here. We save you a lot of time. And when I say we, usually it's me right now. Energy, money, and especially the pain, literally the pain and the problem of sifting through endless business funding solutions, such as these. And I made a video on this on an online marketplace recently, and there's a lot of them I've made content on already. So that's on the YouTube channel. Go view that one. I'm not going to say the name right now. Online marketplaces that always give you a clear picture and a proper breakdown of your best option or options and show you everything you need to know before walking into an application with 110% confidence or 100% confidence and certainty that you won't only get approved, but be satisfied with what you're getting. That's most important. And to give you the most legitimate and helpful source of programs and lenders so you can have a safe and secure and hassle-free application process. With an expert loan broker by your side, yours truly, you will get a more personalized and customized email response or a response with what's best for you once and for all. And I could have put more. So I haven't even spoken on my story. I said a little bit about that earlier. Bio, you guys can learn more about me. If that doesn't speak to enough volumes, it doesn't even have to be said. Like here, I have results. I can show those. I don't always show the client's name to protect that and to do a few things. Testimonials are out there, etc. But this right here is your solution. I'm giving you guys the route of least resistance. I'm giving you guys my best effort and energy. Not right now, because I'm a little bit... I'm gonna probably just knock out later. I know that for sure. I'm gonna work on my legs today. Is what I do. Work on my legs. It's a Thursday. Work on my legs. Thursday, right? Work on my legs, lower body. Probably jump in the tub for a little bit because I gotta relax, decompose my energy, and recalibrate. It's what I do on a Thursday instead of walking, jogging, doing those things, or bicycle sometimes. And then I'll lay in bed just with my phone, probably on YouTube a little bit, and then probably just take a nap. Literally, like in the dark sometimes. I just like, I don't want my significant other, I don't want nobody bothering me. I don't want family calling me. I don't want nobody. And they know this. They know my routine. They know that I mean business in what I do, and then I just need an hour or two, please. I just need to be left alone in a room by myself, recalibrating. I'm sure you guys can relate. And then, hey, we got the evening, or we got things to go do. We gotta go do some salsa lessons, or no, I'm kidding. But and then when you see me out in public, people go, "Why is he tired?" Like, I'm usually happy, like I'm usually smiling, even when I'm drained in energy. Like, I'm the like most happiest guy in that room, but I'm also like very silent as an observer. And I'm like, people would say I'm probably like one of the more deadlier persons in that room, because I'm not always talkative. I'm not talking. And when I do say something, it carries a lot of weight. But because I say less and I do more, I'm very thoughtful in what comes out of my mouth and what I think about. So let's see over here. Anybody else have any questions? I'll leave it open for about another minute. Appreciate you guys too for filling out the forms. I do see them all in here. I'm gonna go through them individually. I'm gonna name some of you guys in here. If you're, we have. I hope I say this right. We have George. That was a little bit earlier though. Nalini, Lisa, Irfan. Seeing them coming in. And there's more of them. So I have. It's Thursday. I'm gonna probably do some work tonight. Probably try to. My goal is probably to do about 10 of these, and I have other people on my list right now. So I got Cindy's done. Broke was done. I asked her a question yesterday, and I remember you guys, just so you guys know. Sometimes by username it's harder to. Kevin, there's really not a need. I'm gonna still show him though, but he has his default. And then Joe, Steve, Brian, Jackie, Shonda, Lonnie, Jose, David, Danilo, Stan, Anthony. So I got a list to do, but I can kind of not blaze, but I can get through them. Sharina, welcome in. How are you doing? I spoke already about. Let me turn on the light. So I already spoke about the defaults. This video is long, like it'll go on YouTube. So if you guys need a replay, follow me on YouTube if you haven't. But I spoke about defaults, past default judgments in place, getting straight with creditors and debt collections. It's not a joke, guys. Don't just file for bankruptcy. Like, if you have no other choice because of that reason or another debt and other things involved, I get it. But there's more to this equation. So I talked about merchant cash advance defaults. I went through everything. So you're going to want to rewind this and watch it specifically for that. Even if you haven't defaulted, you got to know this. Not a lot of people share with you that. You might find some of this on the web, but I composed a document, not from what I found on the web, but from experience, from what I know, from what's happened when I brought clients. And I haven't had defaults myself because I am responsible. I know, like, my business. I know how much I can bite. But you're gonna want to rewind it. And then I went into some of the other things that people were asking, like different services. I didn't get into the 0% interest for 6 to 18 months like I sometimes do. But you can get a credit line through business credit cards, liquidate the cash out of, high enough credit on all consumer credit bureaus. You get those 0% interest credit cards and they give you that access. Boom. Just you're golden for years, man. Like you're in, like, if you do that and you use it over and over, they're going to want to give you a lot more. And so that's how I've been able to build, like, into the 100,000s and above. Why do you think I don't have to always take out a loan, guys? Why do you think you don't hear me saying that I just took out a loan? Has anybody answered that question? Because I'm smart about what I do. And it's about the approach, a long-term approach. Like, you want money now, but you're not willing to work for building your business credit now that can serve you years in your business. The reason why that people don't do this is not because usually they don't know. That's one part. Or they know better. But it's because you don't believe in yourself. That's what it is. It's a lack of belief deeply in your gut. I can take that out and say the reason isn't an external reason. Sure, that has some kind of play, but it's internally you have a lack of belief. You don't think that your business is going to last you 2 years, do you? You don't think your business is going to pass 6 months. Oh, I'm 3 years, 4 years into it, and then you try to get an SBA loan at the revenue you're doing, and then I double check with my lender, by the way. I take time to actually care about you as a human person who has emotions, raw emotions. They are very composed, like me. I'm a very composed emotionally type of person. But everybody's different. And so I want to make sure you guys are taken care of. Period. It's not about the money. I get it's a business, but for me it's about the value and the effects that I have. And I don't even charge people for consults. I could be charging people up to 10, 20,000 for certain things like this, like financial help, financial planning. I can do some of that for helping increase bottom line. Even go deeper, but I don't think it's a necessity for me. I don't want to charge you guys that. In fact, I have my free business credit, my free resources, but I have my Business Funding Mastery Academy course. You guys can pick up. It's still for free in the bio. Pick it up. A to Z, nothing else out there like this. Nobody has ever done something like this. You might find something on Udemy or there, but it's not. This is most up to date and a lot of lessons and modules. You guys are going to be like, damn. Literally, I know you guys are going to say that in your head or out loud because I did this over years. Some stuff is from YouTube. A lot of it is from like Vimeo and other content that I haven't publicly released. And so when you see that, you're going to think, holy smacks. Now I know why I wasn't able to get that. Or, oh, I don't want to run into that problem. And there might be more stuff too, like on financial planning, increasing your bottom line. A lot of resources. Appreciate you. Thank you for the heart. Appreciate you. Thank you. Do you mean as in credit to buy? Yeah, you can use credit for sure. I mean, if it's a loan, it depends on the loan, but credit, business credit, this is the year, guys. And this is also what I'm also hearing from my real estate investor friends, like top of the top real estate investors. Have cash reserve on hand. Liquidate, take the cash out of those cards, those business credit cards more precisely, even personal credit cards. That's much harder to do, but have a credit line that you're using, but have cash on hand. Even if you put it back in the bank, have cash reserved. And then if you're using it to buy real estate, if you're using it for multifamily also, it's a huge one, have that money. Especially with the banks, what they're doing with cards and credit lines right now, pulling back. Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. And if I haven't mentioned it for anybody else, appreciate you guys. Thank you for following as well as sharing the room. Yeah, and I see that right here. Jermaine, thank you. Appreciate it. The hearts and everything. Sharing the live. And again, I don't say it. Like, it's not one of those things where I have to say it. Like, I'm not pompous about it. It's like, you hear those people in those rooms where I go, who they have like 5 moderators or whatever, and they go, hey, share the room, share the room. Hey, you didn't share the room. Right? We can get interactive here without having to be high on that. So at times I will, but it's not because I don't want to. It's just maybe I forget or it's not a part of my nature to do that. I know it would help. Like I had Cedric the other day, like he told people in this room, like this guy is literally the best at what he's doing, and he's a testament. I've helped him out. And he's built his business credit. He has a high enough paydex score now because he learned on what to do, what not to do. And if you think I'm joking till this point, go find out. Go figure that out and see when you come back and you're in a position that you're like, so if you want to go through the school of hard knocks, if you haven't already, go ahead. Anybody else have any questions? What I want to know too, and I don't ask this enough, let me know maybe 1 to 3 things that you learned in this live. One thing that you can take away from without me telling you what that is. Let me know. Comment what's one thing you took away from. If you leave this and maybe you have a thought later on at night and you're like, well, remember he was helping me with this. But what was that one thing that stuck out to you? What was your favorite thing that you learned? Maybe something that you already knew about, but it was expanded on a little bit more. And again, every case is different. So when we look at the problems and the pain and all that behind credit, behind the revenue, everything, the financials, that's more on a per person basis. And that's why I can't like ask Jermaine here, like, hey, Jermaine, like, what's your profit on this? And like we get so specific, and that's more sensitive information. And there's things like your credit that I cannot ask about. Welcome in, Alex. We're at the end actually, but the topic, you can rewind this. I'll have it up on YouTube for you guys. The topic is about defaults and past default judgments in place, usually with a merchant cash advance. You can say government loans or term loans, any other loan, usually credit cards. But if you've defaulted and you've been given a lifeline, like there's people who don't even take that lifeline because they have to do a manual login. So be it. It works. I've had people do that. Even without a default, they've had to do manual logins. They couldn't do it by a link they click and they do it on their phone or on their desktop to allow the lender to do a bank verification accurate. So if you've defaulted, if you've been a ruckus of a client, like, hey, we have to know that we're getting the right information. We have to know that we can trust you. You're saying, can you trust us? This is a credible lender. This is your only lifeline. This is like somebody throwing, what do you call the, not a buoy. I just had the name. Not a life raft. What could be a life raft? Oh, I just lost the name again too. You guys might know it. But you throw that into the water to save somebody. That's what those people are doing. They're swimming in treaded shark infested waters, whether they know it or not. They're in there just trying to get above surface. Like, I need a lifeline. I need a boat. They're stranded out at sea. And somebody finally finds you, or you find them somehow. The current takes you to them. Here, I'm giving you, here's my hand. Take it. And then you're saying to them, I'll find the next one. You think, you see maybe all these boats, but all those boats then leave. And you're like, oh, I thought that boat would have came in. Now you're left out at sea overnight. Days, weeks, years pass. Literally, this is what happens. And if you already defaulted, and even with your previous history with that lender, they don't always give you a pardon. They don't always come back to you. You have to start off with a new lender. And certain lenders specialize in that. It still baffles me how people don't even take that lifeline. And I get it, because you want to give your information over the phone. I get that. I wouldn't want to do that either. But it's safe and secure. It's happened, and it works. But that's your only way. They won't want to do it with a link. I don't want that. I don't want anything fraudulent. I want this to be as safe as possible. And they don't trust you yet. So they're telling you this for certain reasons. Anybody else have any questions? This guy on my list, I don't even know where he went. This guy started an application. We asked for more business. He has several business checking accounts underneath the same bank, but he said he was going to send it to me. His actions don't show his words. He said one thing, did another. I can't. And these are the kind of people who always want to call with me. Like, they want to speak rather over a phone call. They can get text messages, but and I'm not going to give them that. Like, hey, why should I? This is our next part of communication. Why are we going backwards now? It doesn't absolutely make sense to. You could have just sent me it in an email and a text message. And so as much as I love who you are and care about you, at the same time, it's like you're letting something get in the way. Like, that's not good. And you're putting me in front of it. And I'm like, I don't want no part of it. I have lenders who do that all the time to me. They go, Michael, I don't want to get on a call with them. I don't want to do that. You handle it. Or, hey, I'll handle it, but I can handle it the way I have to handle it. They won't like it always. But what did they do to deserve that is the question. I'm not dumb. So I guess if nobody has any questions, again, I'm going to get going. I'm giving you guys an opportunity. I passed the time I needed to. I think I've said everything that I needed. But I guess 30 more seconds and I'll get going, unless somebody has something to say. If I miss somebody, I apologize. I'm scrolling up here right now. I'm telling you, like, some people, they want to do something, but do you really want to do it? Oh, you're Michael, your processes. I don't want to do it. Why can't you just get on a phone call with me? No. That's not how this world works. In our world, or in my world at least. There's a time and a place for it, though. Oh man, as I was scrolling, that join their live thing came up, like where somebody else, I think, invited me. And as I was scrolling, my thumb went to the join now red button, and I thought I clicked it. Good thing I didn't. Okay, everybody, no questions. 10, even input something, and I'll stay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0.5. 0 and 1/16. And see, I would have ended it a second ago. I literally was being serious about that too. Joseph, how are you doing? Good question. See, it takes courage. It doesn't take, I don't know, courage is too strong for this. Any one of us can say something. But you work with me by, and this is standard for everybody, bio link click, or you can go to viralfundingsolutions.com because sometimes the link doesn't appear. But you want to go through my questionnaire. Go through the button, the first one, and then select one of the two options, and then fill out the questionnaire, and then I will evaluate it, analyze it, and give you guys a proper response back via email on your best funding option and options, thoroughly broken down, like nobody else's business. I'll show you your best option and options, whether they can be good or, like, right now you can qualify for them or not. I'll show you how to work up to them. And I work with the best lenders, so just so you know, underwriters in good faith. Oh, another thing too, man, SBA loans. I have clients right now, the majority actually, they do what's called the good faith deposit. It can range between $1,000 to like $2,500, if not $3,000 or so. Sometimes it can be waived off. Other times it's lowered. But the reason they do that is because they want to know you're serious. They just took a lot of time to underwrite the file. You can do anything. You can be here one day, back out. Maybe you pass away. But we want to make sure that you're serious, and that's what they mostly do. And if they didn't do it, there's going to be a hefty broker closing fee, additional liquidation cost. It's going to be a lot more than what you should have done in the beginning. So if you have that on the table, it is also not a guarantee, by the way. Like, if we have a term sheet, if you're given a term sheet, there's a high chance that you're going to get the funding. And so a deposit is one step to that. And so if you're already given that, it's more demonstrated and likelier that you're going to get the loan. It's not always yes. However, the chances of it are much, much, much higher if that happens. The link. Here, let me do this. Can you see that? I use my link tree. I mean, there's another link I can use. But if you click there, you can go over. I know it's a little bit of a link there, but viralfundingsolutions.com. You guys can also go there. Email Michael at viralfundingsolutions.com. And yeah, guys, this is your guys' best. I know I'm kind of going on, but people are commenting, so I'll stick. I don't want to sound redundant, but this is your best choice. And I'm not saying that in a cocky way. It's like confident and very knowledgeable on what I do. So instead of going to like those online marketplaces, instead of trying to get people to call you every single day, work with a trusted advisor, a consultant. And at the same time, like, I look at it this way: you can help out another small business owner, help out a small business owner like yourself, help one another grow, instead of going to this company that advertises 10,000 a month and they're looking like they have everybody and anybody, but they're usually not the best because they don't always house the best providers and network of lenders. They usually underwrite underneath the same people, which isn't always best. I've seen this so many times. Information sent out to third parties, credit shopped around a lot of times, even though they'll tell you no. You'll see your credit shopped around, fraudulent alerts, people calling you from everywhere, emailing, texting. That's not even the half of it. Sucks, but it's a third party, and so okay, it's what you want to do, then go ahead and do that if you're comfortable. You want to always get the maximum amount, best terms, best rates, early payment discounts. I beat offers like every day. I had offers recently of like 100,000. Some people were giving 150. We got them double that, if not more. Simple, better terms, better rates, early payment discounts, literally. When I look at something, I go, yeah, I can beat that. And especially if I know who it was coming from, like, okay, I know who it's from, I know how they work, it'll benefit you. And then the relationship you have. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say? I mean, not anything. I mean, I'll be like rude. Or tell me that I look like Ace Ventura right now, who got zapped with electricity and his hair is up. But that guy's a different animal. Oh, by the way, yes, that was another part. So, if you guys have people who know they can get funding and you want to participate in that, like I have people who come to me all the time. I can work out a compensation with you if you want. That's okay. I mean, I do a lot of the heavy lifting, so I have to take the majority, of course, as the broker. And there's more work on my back end, honestly, that I do. You guys don't see me doing that right now. But there are files that I have already gone through. Other ones I got to go look at and look at some lenders for. But if that's what you want, I can work out with you. And I can give you a low compensation here or there, probably like whatever funded amount of value it is, then I give you probably 10 to 15, if not 20, sometimes 10 to 25% of that. Depends on how heavy the deal is and what amount of work I had to do and what my part is. But yeah, I have people who come to me all the time who send me a referral, and I'm more than trustworthy. We can send it back through Zelle. I have a Relevate account where I can do a transfer from there just very quickly by text, by email. Do that, probably input a little things if it's a new thing, not Zelle related. Probably put your information, very safe and secure, and then you'll get it deposited usually the same day, next day. I'll take care of you. I have literally people who do that with me, and I tell them though, like, this is what I have as an expectation, the reasoning why I have that expectation, and I'm always reasonable. There's no question about that. Okay, everybody. Appreciate you all. Thank you for tuning in. Keep looking out for my content. Go to the channel. I'm going to be releasing something soon. And for all else, please follow. Appreciate you guys for sharing, for tuning in. I have quite a bit to get caught up with, as I'm seeing that I got somebody on LinkedIn who just messaged me who I was expecting to get a message from. But yeah, that'll conclude everything. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. And always stick around because there's always something new in the market that's shifting and it's changing. Appreciate you all. Take